could see a duo essentially qualify in. We'll find out how that works, however, as they've got to hike it all the way across the map. Our first ring
All
is
right, let's
going
get that
over
done.
towards
We've got this
Sky
up. We're good
surrounding
here.
area. And
Doop.
that's going to be a tough one, especially for a lot of our southern teams. Teams from Tree can actually do okay in scenarios like this, but Dome, Stacks, Mod, not going to have a good time, and even 40% worse should actually have a pretty difficult rotation in if they're not able to make it into
All
Club
right,
Official.
let's go to.
Yeah, for me at least, though, I immediately look at the fact that we see LVH, Countdown, 202, Efficient, Stay Healthy, and Staging. The majority of those teams that you want to see on the top
fine.
competing for those early leads have
It looks like we're gonna be seeing a Skyhook here ending early.
Rotations and arguably
do we
want to
do
positions, and it's especially when we talk about the Skyhook region where you get at least 10 to 16 teams able in a playable spot.
Because there are so many buildings over here, I am also curious who ends up taking Grandma's house, which is a really interesting spot to hold. Pretty flexible when it comes to your mid-game approach, but once it gets to late game, having to fight out of Grandma's house can be a little bit tough. This time it fortunately comes with a survey beacon, which may make that more enticing for teams that have chosen to run,
What are my
say,
docks
Bloodhound,
here?
like 3 Dragons have with their limited resources.
Yeah. So for 3 Dragons,
bam. All right,
what
so
this
that's
will
up
come
to
down
date.
ultimately is the total of their points, but something that does bring, I mean, an interesting kind of perspective to this equation is ultimately they're probably looking to perform the best that they can, but with confirmations that might come through here, they're kind of at the whim of doing a lot or whatever they want, realistically speaking, and it's very similar to what we might see out of the boys
Well, this is awkward.
later today. A lack of pressure and no real opportunity, or an already secured one, makes you a very dangerous player.
LVH have already encountered a little bit of danger themselves in Landslide. To stay
We'll
healthy,
probably bump this up a little bit, right?
Thrown back at them, a rotation stymied.
Maybe it looks like
now
around
potentially
there.
going to be cut short even more. A little bit of shield healing and an arc star to buy them some time. Stay healthy haven't lost a member yet, but they are taking so much damage. And with LVH on the exit to this, they'll make it into Landslide. But for how long can they keep this up with the boys on their tail?
This is what I'm scared about today. The boys, they have absolutely nothing to lose. Granted, walking away with a win would make it even easier for themselves, but
I will be doing for
done.
ROCS. Yeah,
So
yesterday I was
different
recovering
kind of
after
fire
a
underneath them.
busy
They're a
weekend
team
of
that
lands.
excels
I had
getting
2 lands I
aggressive. They
did
love
on Saturday.
going for fights when they have the opportunity, and now knowing
So
that they're
yesterday I just
completely
kinda took a
safe
day
do
off, to
so
be honest.
No matter the result, I don't expect to
Why
ever
does this
see
look
this
so
team slow
shitty?
down regarding their decision making.
It certainly helps that they dropped essentially with a purple, 2 purples and a gold. 3 Dragons not nearly so lucky have been caught up in a 3-way fight down by launch site. It's already claimed 1 team. Looks likely to claim them.
It's interesting, right? I feel like after a season where we saw Zen, banned for playing underage, and then kind of taking over RLCS, right? Like, I think it's hard to
Now, this in itself is an incribly
call it
interesting
too
roster,
much of a
given
negative.
its star
I don't think we're going to
nature
see very
between
many
DFQ,
13-year-olds.
of course, and Horizon here.
Both
Heavy
I wouldn't be
pro
surprised to
league
see them
entities
back it down to
in the
14 because of some
previous
US
iterations that we saw
laws
from the ALGS,
instead
now
of
coming
13.
together to quote-unquote be the villains of this lobby.
I
and
don't think there are
steal
very many
away
kids who
one
will
of
be
those
able to
coveted spots.
handle that sort of pressure and should be handling that sort of pressure.
An edge rotating team as well, running with Conduit and
I don't know. It's a
Revenant,
very
and with the 2 players that you
interesting
mentioned already.
situation, right?
This is a squad that wants to take fights, and we can look forward to Villains doing
'Cause
much the same thing as boys.
You could see
being
the
very
side
aggressive,
of the
playing on
concern
front foot,
that
simply because they know that not only does their
maybe
competition
kids are going
allow
to be taken
for it,
advantage
but
of with
if it
them
works,
trying to like pay them
the
less
spot
than they've been
pro
paying
league
pros in the
when
past, which
many
would
of
be
these
something that wouldn't be
players, I think,
surprised to
already
see
feel
since
like they have what it takes
the
to be
like
there. Checking in with our map once again, it does
esports
look
lay
like
of the land
everybody
isn't
is
quite the
starting
same
to rotate
as it
in,
was
if
at
not
one point in
having
time.
finished their rotation
You know, as far as
entirely
money coming in and
Skyhook,
stuff.
or at least everybody that's going to. The teams that you see hanging around the edge, I don't expect
I think it's a
to
rule that
start
got
suddenly
changed
playing
because of
them.
Zen, but I don't think we'll
No,
see too
I
many.
think if
Essentially,
they've
what I'm
made
saying
the
is, I think it got
decision to
changed
work
because
with
of
the edge,
Zen,
it's very
but I don't think
likely,
we'll be seeing too many
something that caters to
13-year-old
the
pros.
playstyle, or more importantly, the position that they exist within here on World's Edge. You'll notice, though, mostly everyone has made their way through that initial zone. It's only the Villains in their excursion against the 3 Dragons
I think if
who are
anything,
truly delayed here. Something
that
to watch
helps
out for, though,
maybe
is
for
this
teams who are thinking
rotation
about
from
academy
100%
squads.
worse. As
Is
they
that
come
something
through
that
the
you
north,
don't see
a
in
team
Rocket
like
League
the
compared to other
Boys is very
teams?
likely to stick around in this
Or
area
other, like,
and count down
esports.
further, which could pose a real threat, especially with Stay Healthy getting involved as well.
You know, a thing like leagues and like
evac
League
tower
or
in.
like CS,
Looks
you'll
like
have
Stay
academy
Healthy
teams where
also
like younger
pretty worried
players or
about
up and
this
comers can still
situation.
get paid.
Are going to take
They'll
the
compete.
slightly riskier route, choosing to move
But
their
not like at the
ultimate
highest
teams
of
in there.
levels.
We know that it's going to be just fine. They, however, don't have that data. And NPC, right ahead of both the Boys and Stay Healthy who are moving in, could cause a few problems as
This
well.
endgame gonna get a little
40%
crazy,
their
chat.
slow play will
But yeah, then the
continue
reason I didn't do
taking
the Bandits on Wheels.
over towards
Oh
the
no, it wasn't the
western
Bandits
side
on
of
Wheels.
the
I was
map.
on the
But
draw. Never mind.
Skyhook is as it always has been. When we get
But
a
yeah, that's
zone
why I
here,
didn't do Bandits on Wheels
it's
this
a
week.
lot of poke, a lot of 30-30.
We'll definitely be doing a lot of
Perhaps
RLCS
some
over
triple
here.
takes, but
I'll have to figure out how I
not
balance
so
it
much.
on the weekends where there's
Bit of a rough take
RLCS
right now,
and ALGS. I'll
unless
probably
one team is just
prioritize RLCS
crazy
realistically,
better than the other today, we shouldn't be seeing this result in
since
too
more
many
of my
kills.
casting work is
They
in
will
Rocket League
try,
right
but
now.
nonetheless, it is going to be a position that results in them taking to the floor below here after the roof take. Getting into that spot is, I mean, behead upon the heights of all of Skyhook there. Plenty of damage.
Chad, this
that'll
end
push
game's would
them
be
into
crazy,
the
bro. Especially
situation.
because it's
While, yes,
including a lot of
you know,
Skyhook.
Death
There's
Wish gets a
so
little
many
involved,
levels
they
here that
might
people
shoot
can be
through a
on.
window or two. It's likely now that they share this space for the time being, at least until we get to that zone 4 and things close out.
Whoa, we're just evac right on top of them. That is one sure way to hurt your chances at a late game. Unfortunately, for Excellence, they will have lost one, and unfortunately, even further, they will have lost their IGL.
Oh, we'll probably watch. Isn't
This is an
Oxygen's
issue in
event
terms
this
of-
week, right? This weekend?
Skyhook is as simple as it gets. I mean, it is
I think. Let me look at
base
that. Look it up.
tutorial for kind of understanding a lot of the presence of these teams and getting
I
aggressive
think that's
like
this weekend,
that,
if I'm not mistaken.
creating or trying to take space when you're outside of this zone.
But we'll probably watch that.
Realize if you're coming this late into play, most spots are already
there it
going
is.
to be taken. It is a thankful opportunity that Excellence get themselves into this position nonetheless.
So let's think about this as well from the teams from an outside of Skyhook perspective, because you say most of these positions are taken, and with Skyhook continuing to be the focus of attention,
Where would I find
there's
that?
likely
Probably
going to be
Oxygen's
a few
Twitter.
more teams that have to drip feed themselves in, especially from the eastern side of this ring. We know Handsome Men are going to be approaching from the north on the train line.
Oh, it's
Seems like
tomorrow.
Stay Healthy were coming in from the south last time we saw them.
Yeah,
and
we'll watch
they
that
might
tomorrow.
Be cut short here as NPC start to take chunks out of teams who are also on a late rotation.
It's going to be already a double drop with Yukabama and Tutu knocked out here, the final escaping member to take to the skies, a grav lift into the train line, but ultimately, I mean, completely decimated for the remnants of this game, and of course, no time for scrims, picked up by none other than Philzon with a massive, leaping ultimate revenue.
I'll be interested to see how these lobbies play out, because it felt like in NA, when we were watching the semifinals, it felt like we were seeing a lot of like aping and stuff because teams were just trying to get teams out. I feel like it's a little bit different since it's the finals now.
Villains are starting to walk up. Villains who we know want to take.
But I don't think.
Triple reds,
I don't know.
by the way.
I'll tell you what, triple reds, and on top of that, the damage from behind. Div 2 will be annihilated, though, looking for the full pickup, but realistically speaking, you're in a 1v2 situation. Diff now, with seconds to spare, is well within the zone, and most things have been cleaned up, but Calamitous making his appearance on the height here will immediately be pressured back.
From the train line, Handsome Men thought they could take this third party, but Villains just win this too quickly. They have too many resources.
Well, let me
at their
pull up
disposal.
preseason
Remember, they
points
are
at
another
least,
squad that
so I
can
kind of know who we
onto
should be
it,
looking out
making
for.
These resets in between fights even easier, and that's to say nothing of the Revenant that they've picked up. Zone won't be putting the pressure on just yet, but these two
I
squads
would
will
love
clash
to see
along with
40%
what is
worst qualify
visually
here.
Stay
Not gonna lie.
Healthy, who are making their way in from Survey Camp, and 3 Dragons who won't have time to rotate through the certainly western side of the ring, perhaps the southern bit if they want to try and take the tunnel, because no one else is there.
Now, notably, there is a huge chunk of space that is left available for this next pull or further pull into the western side zone, and that's just information that some teams don't have. Both teams kind of betting for the eastern steps here. As a result, realistically speaking, when we get into that information being available, it's going to come down to who rotates quick enough to take one of these 2 or 3 buildings that are completely available. Funny enough, though, Dia, it allows the boys who, as late as they are, as unpressured as they are, to come in and now have an excellent spot for this end game.
If anybody knows where this ring is going, it should be the boys, but they have not been able to pick that up, and right now, having lost one, they may not even get to see the next ring close. 202 are pushing up on them. 202, who sure would like a win today. The points are looking good, but this fight
made it back before anyone disappeared. Let's go.
202 already, yes, with that drop, needs to
remember 202 is one of our teams that is like on the border. I feel like they're probably somewhat safe actually.
They've got pressure to spare, especially with none other than a defensive.
As long as they can, like, they don't like
coming down.
Bomb it today.
You don't get to see very often anymore.
And the boys cover every angle from the sky, and with Fako dropping, you've got another coming in. Faka finds another one clip. Could this be the 202 dream?
He needs to peek excellently here, able to
nice
find
shots.
the first crack of the beam. A 30-30 hip shot available, but now double knockdown shields to play against. Gonna take the minor seconds ahead here to look for
so
a
the
Phoenix
teammate
kit.
probably watching for revives.
Difference here, but those knockdowns, Dia.
Oh, okay, so he's back with full health.
Meanwhile, didn't want to try and bait, and now coming in with full health, Rakafaka's car that has already claimed 2
They're
lives.
both at full health.
Down the boys here in game 1. Kills come in.
Oh,
Conduit action,
damn,
and it will be
202 out
that
early
was
though.
so close.
Rakafaka making an excellent claim for the reason that 202 after only 3 PSQs is in such a confirmed spot. Sadly, though, that kill feed tells other stories for some of our closer point scoring teams. Stay healthy.
Hey, 40% worse has this zone red. Perfect.
I believe it was 40% worse that got involved. And I'll tell you what, if you are a Shiv Mandy fan and Zerfer, huge shout out to Zerfer, this is an excellent
Wait, I didn't have it
for
open?
your first game.
I thought I already had it downloaded. I'm so confused.
Rotated in late, basically perfectly predict zone. And while I'm putting that in air quotes,
I'm
it's
so
given them a
confused.
massive advantage, one that villains are desperately fighting for and will have to do through
I'm so
multiple
confused.
squads. Just King left alive. Nice bit of damage on the 99. You know, we saw Rakafaka do some pretty crazy stuff a second ago, though, so I'm gonna give it time. King goes for the reset. Insta push comes out, however, and villains continue to punish. Remember, however, that other teams are looking at this, so the longer this goes on, and it's going on for quite a long time,
they're gonna get pushed here.
The worse villains' chance of survival gets.
And even worse than that,
shut up.
With major damage and a couple melees to seal the deal. Round 4 is closing, Dia. Seconds to spare. They've got to find a position in zone and get these revives.
Damn.
Should be able to get both of them, and remember, with Conduit, perhaps make this a little bit easier. Native 8 will be rotating right to the north of them, with Scary having to expend an early grab lift just to get into the center of Skyhook. Not even the ring. Takes the northern path, and a catalyst wall right behind them does cut them off from other squads. Starting to make their way in. Lone and Aski do make their way towards the south end instead. Mumet takes a lot of damage.
Stuck underneath here will be the initial knock on Clone, but this is less than cover to work with. A single smoke from Mumet keeps them in play, and a black hole does go awry, but it's still plenty of good ordinances that pressure and zone out Aski here. Now down to a single member remaining. Mumet literally is back up against the wall with a single knockdown to play around. Stuck with
Damn.
no
I think I'm just gonna wait until
decision.
after this game to go live on the other thing.
Very nice way to play that from Fluffle, continuing to keep the pressure up even as a duo. They know they have to play with confidence and take out as many teams that appear weak as possible. As soon as you get the first drop, You know that you're going to be your best shot at collecting KP and the extra couple points that you can grab after just one round. OKS fighting for their lives do permanently lose their catalyst, and these Watson cheese
things are about to go crazy, chat.
They're going to get full push on the inside of this building. DipQ does trade one, but it will be Villains again that claim the life of another squad, and if DipQ keeps
Villains are just slaying right now,
I'll tell you
dog.
what, for the Villains here, they have made a statement already. Even if they go out here, a massive chunk of their KP is going to support the starting points for this roster, even if they aren't able to survive.
How many kills do they have so far?
With LVH just below them, they are free for the picking. King V with one, maybe potentially more.
Behind.
As well, this leaves just Vapes to survive.
Of course they're picking up more kills as we move further into this.
Is that Villains who are moving in?
One escape left for Vapes. Might be able to
3 dragons out.
on the way out.
Oh, but now they're stuck.
Barricade does get released, and
but he's getting ate up by the
Villains
storm.
are back
He's getting ate up by the storm.
Able to push forward. They turn back onto Vapes. Take him out. Saying goodbye to LVH on the other side of the ring. It's boys fighting for their lives, and up against 40%.
That was an interesting play from 40% worse.
2v2 situation. The boys will be
the boys are out. 40% worse, get up.
From above for 40%.
Can they get picked up here?
They've secured their side of zone. Meanwhile, for none other than the Villains, finally their reckoning comes. The heroes arrive here and send them.
All right, so Villains out in 6, but they still had a lot of KP though.
Goddamn's allowed to survive, but Juice's got to pull off some stunting moves before he can pick up some of these revives.
We know 40% worse do have an entire side of ring to themselves. Have already started looking at this fight between Falafel and Tohu Tona. Juso's unable to get the.
So you still have 40% worse? Are they the only full squad?
Start taking space as another knock comes in. Finals.
Is it them and 2 duos?
From the north, and now it's time for 40% worse to take position to prepare themselves for an endgame.
Is
it 40% worse than 2 duos?
Perfect situation that guarantees
Yeah.
that they have a numbers advantage. A 3.
Yeah. So finals finders versus 40% worse here.
Dare I say,
bro, Shiv's team starting off with the dub ski.
A 40% win bound to happen.
This is the dream game one for them, that's for sure, but they still need to close it out. 40% worse are not taking a lot of space, and while you illustrate that it's a 2 versus 3, center of the zone belongs to finals finders, and even off of damage like that, 40% worse aren't pushing up yet. They're about to hit Horizon ult time. This may be where, as the ults come online, 40% worse do feel a little bit more comfortable.
Let's go, boys!
Cannot blame them for being
they need a dub. Like, they need to win today if they're going to qualify. And this team looks like, man, if they spend time together, they're going to be good.
Recent zone, it's understandable to try to source out what might be a potential third in this equation. As this ring closes up, though, I am sure that this might be a.
Remember, they don't know that there's 5 people. Otherwise, 40% worse would probably be a little bit more aggressive with the push here. Granted, they do have the zone a little bit closer to them.
Right fence line where, as we start to see Final Finders pop up.
So Final Finders technically are gonna have to move over that like
Cooldown reveals that Catalyst Wall will likely not be in play for the
over that wall, right?
Making it a bit more difficult for 40% worse to walk up through this open space. One more smoke in the canister for Shiv. May be enough to move them forward to a place where they can feel a little bit safer with the cover they have. Playing around to
Why would you do it?
Not ideal.
There?
Now comes the ult. And Shiv is buying the team space.
I mean, I guess it's going to be close enough that they're going to hit them. Nice 8. No! Suck them in? Oh! Yo. Oh, it's over. It's over. 40% worse to the winners. Let's go.
And send 40% worse as your game 1 champions.
A great way to play that.
Hey, the boys looking good today.
Well, Zephyr,
they're looking good today.
That word in our final ring. And watching the way,
I'm telling you, this squad needs to be in Pro League, bro.
Take their time and waited for ultimate cooldowns, crucially, to come up, made all the difference between what could have been a scrappy end game and what was in this case a very clean one. They do not make it look close. They pick up a win, and even after rotating into zone late, they predict that zone pretty darn perfectly.
Not even just within the predictions at hand here. More importantly than that, I am impressed with the quality that exists regarding how I dare say.
Why aren't we on the caster screen?
The ability for them to not only be so conscious in the power to win, play things out, and be careful, but also be a threat when necessary. One big factor of that win that we didn't get the chance to discuss is that, well, the boys were a huge thorn in their side that they were able to take down and eliminate.
That's very true. The boys,
there we go.
For as much as they did go hard in this game, couldn't make it the big game that they wanted. However, they're going to keep rolling those dice. They're going to keep seeing if they can come up with one. We are going to take a small break and gather our points so we can come back with more information for you guys in game number 2.
All right, they're going to break. I'm guessing they're probably having some technical difficulty. That's probably also why they were just sitting there on that one screen. Let me get some music going here while they're on break for y'all. Let's get it. We can take a look at Battlefy though, real quick, chat. So we got 40% worse, sitting in first place with 19 points, although they're tied with Villains had 16 KP. That's gross. They were out in 6th place, bro. Just imagine if they would have been able to stay alive. Holy shnikes. All right, so really close top of the leaderboard after one game. 40% worse, and Villains tied in first with 19. Finals Finders, who finished second, they also had 9 KP, so they're going to be at 18 points. Tahu Tantut in 4th. So, interesting. A lot of our guys we're looking for are actually going out early. Huh. Because remember, screw it. Here's some of the teams that we're looking for. A lot of them kind of sitting down towards the bottom. Need More Bullets is out. But everyone else is still pretty well in. I do believe towards the top here anyways, right? Boys, 3 Dragons. 202. Stay healthy. Yeah, so a lot of them going out early. That's tough. That's toughertons. All right. All right, got game 2. Game number 2. All right, let's get ready for when they're coming back here from bow, bow, bow. Damn, so that means we're gonna have to really book it on videos. Because tomorrow, starting at 6 p.m. and then Wednesday at 6 p.m., I'm not gonna be able to do editing and stuff, which is fine. I mean, usually in the evenings, I'm kind of more burnt out anyways, just as far as on the editing side, just because that's like a lot to work on those projects. I wish there was an easier way to streamline the editing on those. Like, I've kind of gotten decent with it, but I wonder if they're having some. I feel like usually their breaks aren't too long in between, but maybe they're having some issues. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I don't understand if... Do I have my settings set for that for this? Oh, okay. I thought I had it set. See, even this is saying that the... Huh. Interesting.
Is a series here.
I paused it. I'm so mad at myself.
Run a tie for our first game, and even the finals finders with 9 themselves managed to pick up 9 KP, bringing an 18-point finish.
Being one of the very few teams to, and you know, in one of the last 2 teams to survive the closure of Skyhook, and being the only ones that had to come from whatever happens when you get these massive exoduses from one side of the map, really worked out well for finals.
Oh, I need to
pick up a lot of kills, and I like the fact that
appear offline Steam. My bad, chat.
The standings are so close because it kind of needs to be, Zephyr. There need to be some names that were not set at the start of the day coming into the top 3 over the first even half of the day.
It's interesting because it's weird to see Versus only seeing like 200 viewers.
All of them need a win today, where Tohutona does feel a little bit more comfortable with points.
I'll tell you what, when we're talking about comfortable with points, the likes of Stay Healthy, 202, LVH, and heck, I'll even throw Death Wish into the equation here now, are, I mean, not in a fantastic spot. It is going to be an incredible...
I mean, the good news for them is it's only one game, and you've got like 3 teams that are sitting at the top. So if they all have like a bad game and you're consistent through the rest of the series, you put yourself in a position, right?
And Stay Healthy is
but it's got to start here.
Examples of what could make or break the distance for teams that have been so consistent at the top of our point standings.
With some squads coming in above them during the course of this game alone, 3 Dragons, the duo, managed to place almost in the top 10 with Native 8 right above them. This was a real difficult journey in, as Skyhook does prove to be very difficult for teams that come from the south end of the ring. However, we'll be getting to change that up, I expect, as our second map on World's Edge is just about ready. And it's time for us to consider what will be changing as we move into game number 2. For things like, or for teams like the boys and villains, I don't expect a whole lot to actually shift around.
I feel
they
like villains
still be running at everyone.
Know that teams are going to be trying to play like conservative,
for most
right?
of our teams to still find their success, but the big thing that I'm looking at right now is the fact that currently, outside of 7th down, every single team that has the potential chance to win it, look great, and be in game 1, and potentially be a winner, is a new face here. A team that doesn't have the points to push behind themselves for the other 4 slots.
It's interesting to see.
Let's see what ends up happening.
That the TikTok thing, it seems like it's bouncing my
have quite a bit of conduit revenant.
Upload a bit.
That to stick around. Not a whole lot of...
Do we think Conduit Revenant is going to be like Pro League? I don't think that is, right? Like, that's just got to be a
few of them
PLQ thing, right?
It was mostly 3 Dragons that had picked that up. Everybody's still sticking with the Bangalore, of course, for her ability to cut off sightlines and cut off whole areas of the map on an ult, but we're sticking with more or less the same things in our second round of the day. And now it's time to find out where the ring and the dropship take us, because early contests weren't really a thing, Zephyr.
No, most teams have kind of opted for survivability, especially with.
No, everyone's gonna be worried about placement. It's week 6, man.
Potentially just to give them the
especially because a lot of teams need the win today.
A little bit longer, throwing your chances of Pro League away at a 50-50, even on one map, is enough to seal or set you within stone here. But hey, we've still got plenty of games, and I'll tell you what, even Storm Point may mix in some goodies for us when we represent that map in 2 games.
I expect that it will. And Zephyr, as we prepare to commentate over Game 2, we've got a little bit of action in the early game, as Tohu Tona did end up going for the additional points. Alternator in the hands of Marakasi does pick up the singular knock, but with 1 HP, it's not going to last long. Tohu Tona take a risk and go down very, very early.
Well, it was a major chance for them to catch up or push themselves.
How did I miss Ari's resub?
That's going to come back to bite them here now that they are going to lose out an entire.
Ari, I appreciate you, fam. Why did I not go off?
This is great for the likes of MPC.
The fuck?
Are even closer themselves in 9th right now. Now, granted, we're still talking about single point matters here, but
yo, Ari, I appreciate you, fam.
Tohu Tona being a decisive,
if you're still in here, I hope you are.
Gapping winner to just be, well,
is you a real one?
And now being left alone
42
with
months, holy shit.
Worth of loot. Although, let's be honest with ourselves, Monument and Frag are not the greatest places to start. They're certainly going to help when you're able to put those 2 chances.
No, but for real, why doesn't that go off?
Together. Or, if you want to, as NPC, start making your way early into a ring that's really close by.
This one, though, once again, going to be catering towards the western sides of our map here. Most either usually ending upwards towards that lava fissure area out towards the west, or sometimes more directly.
There it is. Yo, I appreciate the 42
months. Assassin has been a QT in the community for 42 months. What a legend. Holy goddamn 42 months.
Took them all the way to the south.
Yo, I appreciate you, fam.
This time, as you say, with the ring so close by, there is a chance that they end up playing through thermal, maybe running into 40% worse before the boys even have a chance. So many teams have already started evac towering their ways into now Lava Fissure. A pretty uncommon endgame, especially with this ring revealing itself as it has. But Zephyr, it is also, as uncommon as it is, one of the few places that has buildings you can play in the many final zones that could occur.
Right, and in very few, I would say, though, in comparison to some that we do see here on World's Edge. A team that takes a building, though, that can pay dividends for a late game is Deathwish. A roster that we don't make a lot of discussion or fuss about in the kind of points leading up to these preseason qualifiers, or at least our 4th one, but is the next.
So Deathwish gets themselves some zone here, which is nice.
After some instance this morning, is now in.
Yo, who came in and dropped a shit ton of likes? Holy fuck! Over on
this is the
Tiki Tac.
To see the remnants of the Odin gamers make their reappearance in the EMEA.
Could very well usurp the spot of some other teams.
That's insane.
That started today with
someone tabbing that screen like crazy.
OKS. Not
appreciate you.
Enough purchase on the last member. Are going to likely have to let that go, but their own move through this ring should be one that actually makes them a little bit more comfortable.
So yeah, chat, we got this now. We'll also be back tonight. Starts at 9 for NA.
Instead of moving through the north of Skyhook,
I'm gonna try and get most of the APAC video done before then.
It is a rotation that should.
I would really like to drop it tonight, but I don't know if I'll have the time to. We'll be cutting it kind of close.
Getting through that landslide area.
Nightmare,
like
how you been, fam?
Always be difficulties, but seeming that the overlook side of things out here all the way to the east is having more than expected in terms of these teams on their potential rotations. Of course.
Look at everybody rocking the white tees right now over here by Overlook, dog.
Everyone now starting to see that there's more than meets the eye. 9 players in this action might be looking for recovery rather than a fight.
Excellence are just right.
I'm not that great with the rosters in EMEA. Like, I can't tell you looking at the teams right there. like what teams that is. Like if it was NA, I could probably do a little bit better.
Native 8, you feel a little bit
maybe
more
not so much PLQ though, for real.
Waters, seeing if they can get an early pick, and BJ with his back covered does attempt to grab a little bit more height. Ultimately, though, needing to focus as their crafting rotation is what they're here to focus on. This is not a position that they took in order to find other teams. They want to get the crafting done, grab bats, grab a few shield evos, whatever you need, and then get the heck out.
And ultimately, it's a win. They've managed to do so.
A win's a win.
The teams in their presence have completely rotated away, and it is going to be Native that looks all the better for coming out on top of this one. Now, granted, with a balloon nearby and further rotations ahead, it is still difficulties, especially in our earlier discussion regarding that landslide or western areas. But
I wonder if
there's a lot of realm for spreading things out, and given the potential opportunity,
like I don't really want to risk it right now, but I wonder how good the multi-stream's working at the moment.
A few Bloodhound squads has Forbidden.
Again, I don't want to risk it.
To make their way up into Lava Siphon. They are running into a late rotator.
Just because we've been doing all right now.
All right for them so far. Zodiac going to swing out along the Catalyst wall, but watches one get dropped.
Knock on wood, but
does pop a syringe in order to keep themselves from going down to the ring, but this is where things start to get very dangerous, even with 2 knocks in your favor.
I wish Apex could do something about the UI. Because one thing I've noticed a lot during PLQs this go around is that
even harder.
It is really hard
coming through.
To
it's likely that after who gets this heal and well is in that kind of position, we say goodbye to them.
It is really hard to
and some men took
see like the team names for a lot of the teams. Like a lot of the teams.
Does end up claiming their lives. The path ahead for Forbidden is still pretty clear as no teams lie in Harvester or even beyond that on their way to the ring. But once they get there, villains are still going to be playing on the southeastern side. Alternately, the boys, who are very fond of the landslide rotation, have made it once again. Second game in a row that they take landslide and sit there for a very long time looking for kills to come through.
For LVH, they're sitting so similar up towards the north side here outside of Countdown, taking
LVH is one of our team that like needs to win today, right?
Donner and Savitar here from Falafel, and we'll see if they continue to pick up that last remaining Nye here as
they're like
likely escape towards the dead set center of command. But hey, put Vapes on a longbow, make it golden, and I'll tell you what, find a couple cracks.
Golden longbow feels so incredible, but the last couple shots don't exactly hit as they would like.
Is this the same 2 teams that we saw fighting earlier? They just moved over towards Monument? No time for scrims? Solid name. I can get with it.
Southeastern side where no time for scrims are left struggling for a position in Monument. They do still have technical high ground advantage.
Well, at least for now, the big difference, though, between their success in these fights that might come to beat them is the fact that they do lack some of those resources. Mod weaponry in hand.
All right, so now that means that they've been able to move in up underneath. No time for scrims.
To Native that now might come to affect them.
Does Native push the high ground? That's the real question. It's hard to push into the conduit here.
It could have been easier, but still, like you said, it's a minor height advantage. It's one of the few advantages that they have.
The energy barricade down. Native are disincentivized from pushing up onto the high ground, but they would really like to clear a team away, not have to.
Yo, I think after this game, I need to got those
somehow separating
oil into my beard. I don't think I did that. I have showers more.
Scrims are going to come under serious pressure as ordinances
like
don't actually get used here, but you're
no
losing
bueno,
space,
dog.
even if it still is on the high ground.
Yeah, Natives. This is just where their shield advantage is just different.
A lot of damage.
Big shots too.
Survive critically. Scary, still taking quite a bit. They are going to drop down and try and finish off the last members of this squad. Native have lost 1 with 2-2 and Odie down, however. It is a numbers advantage for them.
Yeah, what? 2v1 here for Native, right?
Off here will put them in a posturing amount of health as we see revives in a door stuck out on other ends. Looking like the second floor is the place to play as we do take ourselves back towards that zip line. Gotta be careful though. Scary as low as can be.
A lot of time in the zone here.
Not enough heals here. Could be the end of Native if not appropriately handling.
Ooh.
Names.
So at this point, they're just gonna let
close.
Bang go down? No,
Dude,
Bang gets
get out
health.
to pop
Okay.
syringes immediately, but it works out for Scary, eliminating no time for scrims, and credit to Native, who approached that fight really well. It is going to be a struggle to stay alive in this ring, as we said, syringes are super important. As soon as you get picked up off the ground,
especially once this actually closes, right? Hits more.
VTex's med kit barely going off in time, but the fight against the ring is going to have to be their main struggle for now.
Who's ratting here?
Still lie ahead of them, and we've got something else cooking as villains wait for some poor unsuspecting fool to walk through the vault.
Why are they I mean, okay, notably, I was about to say, there's no one outside zone. This is likely not to have any impacts, and granted, they are walking away, but could have seen some impacts of.
So 40% worse is going to have to make quite a bit of a move here from Mirage Y4. The good news for them is there's like not a bunch of people on this side of the zone. You got to imagine
the likes of the boys, one of the best fighting squads, the current leader in points here.
Because boys probably take this fight and then rotate in this way, right?
To lose.
And villains immediately run back in. They have been ratted on themselves, and such an easy gatekeep is now available for the boys. 45 seconds means there's no time to go around the rest of the ring, and the boys want to finish off these kills. They don't want to wait and play the patience game. Instead, Bako gonna peek over the
So you got the Rev Totem?
Has lost
no, Rev Totem's done.
30-30 saves the day for them. The boys, with no shields left, have one victory in their faces, and villains go down.
That's gross.
The rotations in from Native 8 still happening right next door. Scary is right above all this. Forbidden starting to make their way in from the south, have not chosen to go through the boys. 13 seconds left. Native are going to have one terrifying roster coming out behind them.
With no eyes ahead set here, they'll take the time to get at least the med kits off for their final or maybe last appearances. But the big thing to point out after that wipe is now officially Finals Finders and 40% Worst are the two most leading point squads coming outside or into our game two. With good
wouldn't Native have heard that going off down there? I guess they are more worried about the revive. Okay, that makes sense.
This is huge, though. Attempting to try to go for the revive, even with the boys. Alongside that,
Stone closing in. This is really dangerous for Native. And normally, I think the boys would push this, but they've got another squad.
Oh, boys just got scanned.
Bloodhound scan comes out. Babylon's predicting the swing. Does still get shredded, but Conduit keeps them alive. Bako does end up falling, however, and it's left in the hands of Clemmy to make it into the zone. Something that, especially after this shell shock, is difficult, if not impossible, to do. The finish
boys go out.
The boys go out, and Native, who stuck the res earlier, are still alive.
On the other side, they will set themselves up with the minor cover that exists here, and Forbidden are slowly piecing themselves back together.
202 is going to push into this.
Looking to be a direct 2v2 situation. Aku, no white heals to go. Now going to have to fight this one out with just 150 total available health.
I still don't know which side of this I prefer, because you know that with coming in with 2 syringes and 2 cells, that Native aren't feeling too happy about this situation either, but Forbidden are going to dip back.
I mean, for Forbidden's got a couple of KP, so I mean, if they can manage to stay alive, get yourself up into like 7th, 8th, at least get yourself an extra placement point.
In what's going to be a very difficult journey. This
is just tough because you got so many teams that are still left alive on this rotation. A lot
of rotations from Lava Fisher, where we saw teams itemize into earlier.
Ooh. I'll tell you what, even if you make your way, though, into Fissure, look at who are the gatekeepers here. Deathwish followed by 202, followed by 40%.
I would love to see 40% Worst go back-to-back.
Roster who isn't set as a full 3-man. Instead, Shiv taking an incredibly wide alternative angle here to try to punish out maybe these further rotations. Obviously, is on that Bangalore, so can cater to the smokes at any given point to pull this one back in a way, but that's not a lot of cover. Not a lot of space.
Finals Finders defend their home in Lava Fisher, but they're going to need to make their move.
So Bangal's going to come out here
closing.
for Final Finders.
To finish off this fight. They have time to take a risk on high ground and exit this way. That seems to be the plan.
All right,
One smoke
now they move.
For Fauda. going to be used very early to make their
they got a team on their left and their right here.
It gives them no breathing room at all. Native go down. Excellence go down. Forbidden fall on the ring close as well. Claimed by 40% worse.
Nice
and
wall.
For finals finders, they themselves are
God, they just have so many teams looking at them, man. And you got a team in the donut building ahead of you as well.
Teams. It is a single veil that gives them their performance to stay alive. And Infuta going to be taking it down to the bottom.
Shut up!
Where maybe just a small whisper, a small ratting will keep them alive. But look at 202.
All right, 202 is going to push on to 40% worse. 40% worse about to go down.
40%
Yeah,
have much to work with.
They're going out here.
With 2 down, it's just Zerafer left, even in this truck bed. A cute spot, but not one that should keep them alive for long. We'll see whether the fight continues around them as OKS are starting to come into third party this, perhaps giving Zerafer the chance to rat things out for good and for a few placement points. Miscam gonna slide up into their faces, get taken down almost immediately, and Rakafaka on 25 HP is going to have
They almost held 40% worse, get another spot.
One rat to another here. 202 will try and down shield in the name of Aussie Owl makes its way back, and for Rakafaka, the minute a peak occurs on the other side, instantly starts to take damage. For now, going to have to persist.
So what, Rakafaka's hoping that the shots from across the way keeps his team
slides in as that fourth
occupado.
party here begins with wall. Yes, their own damage, but taking just as much in return.
Rakafaka's still on the low ground as well. Finals finders go down, and then 202 follows, making it all the way into 8th. Deathwish
still, even at 8 though, what 8 through 10 get the same placement points, right?
We're gonna get swung on, and the fight
so
is
like,
never ending. As OKS want to claim these kills. Their own journey.
Bro, I can't see shit on this display right now.
Start moving them into countdown because the ring has started closing, and we still have not stopped fighting. We still haven't even stopped chasing. As Odyssey are right behind OKS.
They've got to make a choice here, whether it's the fight ahead or directly in the face of the team set within countdown. Pinhu, without the slow on their back, now has the opportunity to peek this other side, but you have to be so careful. We know for a fact that there's likely a team in that window, and now we know that we've
So now they're going to use that Watson pylon. Nice, good pylon here. You're able to stay in the smoke here for cover as well.
To give them their defense, but it needs to be an even better fight here without Chico down.
You got help from the storm. Nice. You only get the one though.
But Stay Healthy are here for the cleanup.
Good cleanup by Stay Healthy, top 4.
6th party at this point, and Stay Healthy should be the last, the only.
So who has the high ground up there?
And make it into this zone. They are now one of 4
Yeah, what? One team inside and one team on the outside? Is that right?
And Stay Healthy on the low ground, arguably the most difficult position, but they have the benefit of it being the most undesirable one as well.
Right now, NPC,
oh, you got NPC up in this building with LVH.
Potentially, yes, Stay Healthy is undesirable, but I would not want where NPC currently.
I mean, Stay Healthy could get the benefit of the 3 of the other teams all kind of being up in that building and fighting one another. I just don't know if they've got a way to push up there to, like, third party again, right?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Wow, that was insane.
That was the...
Now, Wanted comes in and gets the cleanup. That's easy. Now you got yourself a full 3v3. The only problem is Wanted's got the best place here. You're gonna be able to, you're gonna basically just look down and shoot.
We're the most devastating
because they gotta move.
Seen in my entire life. It's almost individually responsible for moving us down to just the 2 squads left. And now Stay Healthy's position does start to look a whole lot harder, even with the smokes that they've used.
Like, realistically, they need to move in while the 3P was happening. Because even if you move up just to, like, the window, then you no longer have to move out through the, like, open, right?
Wanted who have been
like, even if you would have been able to go from down here and push up to this that little like crate,
of the height
even though that crate still sucks,
love this
but it's a much better position than they're in right now. I mean, Wanted should be able to win this for free.
Response now completely separated out as a solo member. This is the advantage Stay Healthy look for, but the height in return is oh so difficult. A perfect dark veil on the other side. Angles to push back. Finds
2v2
as well. Now a single knockdown shield and a dream here, and a 2v1 here.
Oh, 2v1.
With no shield swaps on the other
and they're just going to wait for him to push across because they've got zone.
Not wall either. There's going to be a few seconds until
Easy
this
dub.
one drops, likely falling soon, but up to the skies. Gravity Lift is going to take the last member, and This will
Wanted
be
to
it.
take a
Wanted
game
will
too.
claim the win. Stay healthy. Fought well, but who could have predicted that? Who?
Remember, Wanted was sitting.
Who?
Oh,
who
no,
can
weren't.
emotionally recover from that game? Even
Wanted only had one game though, so or 1 point before that game. So
that's exactly how it
I
feels
see what
here.
scores are,
We
but
went
I'm not
from
going to spoil them yet.
Dominant rosters from 202 to 40% worse to the likes of stay healthy even.
Top of the leaderboard though looks pretty interesting after 2 games.
Making their own
4 teams within 3 points.
Swings.
Tied at the top right now.
It didn't matter in so many ways. The KP that so many teams were looking to pick up here doesn't come through, right? They don't get the opportunity to actually piece that together.
That's a good point. I mean,
right?
even your top teams were kind of more early rotator. Most of them had
It's
6 at the
very
most.
likely that when we look at the kills in this solo game, you're only taking away 3 to 6 maybe at maximum.
That's very true. That's very true. Where this game did provide in terms of showmanship at the end, it may not have been everybody's dream standings booster. Let's actually take a look at the standings just to see how we're sitting.
That makes the standings really interesting though.
Because 40% worse.
Yeah, there it is.
Wow,
so 40% worse, still in first, behind final or tied with finals finders.
Finals finders still tied with them. Honestly, Zephyr, not much has changed.
Only thing that's changed is Wanted being there, is putting themselves in.
To express here.
Even NPCs.
In their own individual
like the top 3 is still the same, right?
Wiped out here.
But now you've got
No
2
one
new
really
contestants
takes off on the leaderboard.
here.
It's a huge
That's an
catch-up
awful
of the
circle, but
villains
you know what I'm
in
talking about.
Wanted, though, and even a tie-in towards NPC who jumped from 7th all the way to 5th here. But ultimately, hands are tied still on the likes of World's Edge. There is still a world of performance that needs to be
I mean, you
had
figure you got 10
for
teams
any
with double
one of these
digits at 2
rosters.
games, so any of them really could
It very
enter
much is.
themselves in the
Fortunately,
conversation,
Zephyr,
even with just like
there's
a
4 games
3rd,
left to
4th
do.
place
One more
game
on
with decent
Worlds,
amount of
however.
KP,
World's
right?
Edge, however, when we come back.
We still have one more game. All right, so 2 games down. 1 more on World's Edge, and we go to Storm Point for our last 3. So still really close as far as at the top. Not so much as far as with a lot of our teams that are like at the top of preseason points, though. I mean, the boys are down in 8th. 202's down in 16th. Where's Stay Healthy at? Stay Healthy's in 6th. And if one of these 2 teams' finals finders are 40% worse, wins like the whole thing, or really anybody in the top 5 right now were to win, they take one of those spots. Because none of them right now are in contention that even if they were to get second, they'd move far enough in the preseason points to like be in the conversation. I think most of the top 5 right now, this is like their first finals, right? Not 40% worse. I think 40% worse. Oh, no, that was before they got Mande, though, that they were, I think, in the finals in week 1, I think. But 40% worse. I don't think they've made it this far. The other 2. Yeah, I don't think anyone top 5 right now is in a spot that if they had like a monster, if they have a 2nd place finish, even if all of the people who are in this lobby that are like higher up in preseason points like finished in the bottom 5, I don't think it would matter. Kind of the rough part about, playing yourself into this position. That's why you got 4 weeks.
To be honest with you, Zephyr, I'm still thinking about Flinzon's PK shots. However, we do have to get on with our day, and that means that we do have the privilege of seeing who's getting ever closer to Pro League as we move forward through the day. As you noted, and we'll bring up the standings one more time so that those who are new can just check them out before we move into the next game. We're not actually getting that much closer to determining the actual leader in this lobby, as last game was so chaotic.
All right, well, we get ready to go in here, chat. I'm going to go put some oil in my beard. I need to, man. It's like dry.
No, it is a quote-unquote grand reset for so many of our rosters out there. We take the bottom of the board and elevate a majority of the teams closer to that 9-point mark. And for some of those who are maybe falling a hair's breadth behind in terms of the single digits, wanted NPCs here, even Odysseys and OKS, they all managed to kind of climb up in that last game and have maybe more a reliably fighting chance here for their final game on World's Edge.
And it's important that you illustrate that, because the fact that we got one of these reset games, as you called it, on World's Edge means that if you are a team that does rely a little bit more on the clean macro and easy zone pulls or zone play that World's Edge should be giving you statistically, this is a big wake-up call. Now you've got to think about adjusting to Storm Point, or rather, you should be thinking about that in about 25 minutes. Right now, get your head in the game. But it's getting very close, and with only one game left to determine really whether you're in Pro League or not, at least for World's Edge, this is going to be difficult for teams that did want to play a little more conservatively coming into today.
Now, I want to talk about this because there's definitely some 40% fans out there. Yes, they're in the lead right now, but they need to maintain it here. But something that I am beginning to notice that should give you a sliver of hope is, with some of those shots potentially shifting, with the boys maybe on their way to catch up alongside Stay Healthy, the opportunity for Deathwish versus 40% worse to come into the fray of how those points fall out is ever more present. Notice, 40% in first. Deathwish, who, even though they are slightly above them in the current standings, are at 17th. I don't even tell most people know that that math alone right there is a massive advantage for the likes of 40% worse.
Very much so. This is, I think, probably the day that most people, as you said, since they have a lot of fans in the audience, were hoping for. There are going to be some Deathwish fans, however, that do want this contest to get a little bit closer. It will require quite a bit, though, because 40% worse have been playing really well, even in last game that, as we said, did claim a lot of lives.
I'm actually going to go throw some sleeves on real quick, too. It's kind of cold.
40% worse were playing really clean Apex Legends, making their way in from the south side of zone. Thermal has given them a lot of room to make slow moves into the ring and to play around the edge of it while still being able to access parts of the map that nobody else is in, mainly because the zones are pulling over towards the west and they're already there. So many teams pile up in the eastern side of these rings.
Well, for most of our teams here, they might be hoping for a pile like that or something that gives them their advantage, but ultimately, we hope we don't go towards the west. We've paid our visits, we've made our way towards Countdown and Skyhook, and of course Fissure, all the same, but it's time to shift things up.
This is not the last movie of Lord of the Rings. That joke was for my father, and my father only. So Joaquin, if you're out there, that was for you.
All right. Joaquin, congratulations.
All right. Our final game on World's Edge has already dropped everyone off. We do have early fights once more as Joyzy goes down. Really nice movement from Tohu Tonan. Good damn. But the fight over at Dome, we know who this is.
Right.
It's going to be Tohu Tonan hoping to eliminate 3 dragons early, and 3 dragons who have played today out as a duo. Juso does go low, but this is still a big numbers advantage.
At this point here, it's Tohu Tonan is actually making a very smart play. They always know they'll be at a numbers advantage if they slow play this out, and finding that first elimination pretty much guarantees that if they handle this well, play appropriately, it is a extra 2 KP per game here if they can source out this rotation, this POI, and this drop.
All right, that's much better, chat.
Yeah, slides on through. Tohutona don't want to keep pushing their luck, however, especially knowing there's a PK on the other side of this. Full-on rushing it could be really embarrassing.
All right, they show where we're going yet?
They're going to play this slow play.
We're going with Sal. Going to thermal, baby.
Hopefully.
Probably on the tracks here, right? Between that and tree.
However, that we weren't going to be going up towards the northwest side of the map again. This time, we are we're going southwest. So 40% worse. Very different game, and arguably the biggest challenge that'll be thrown at them throughout all of their games on World's Edge today.
Well, we'll see how they make their rotations instead now for the Handsome Men. They themselves in fights of their own. Behind the door, a white shield to be had. Calamitous finally being knocked as Odie turns right round and spies that one out. Vervass up, taking towards this height. A grab lift will be a nice reset, but ultimately, with doors ahead and potential issues regarding revives, this could get very bad for Handsome.
It's a nice way to be able to drop down as well. Has a knockdown shield ready, even if it is only a white one. They're going to try and take this fight
nah,
with
it's
purple
2v1.
shields. Now
He's got back down too. That's tough.
The escape either, and Handsome Men go down. No time.
All right, no time for scrim. Still going to be a 3.
The contest.
They are going to have to move here pretty soon, though.
Big mod with it.
Well, for the likes of Handsome Men, that's going to put them back on the drawing board, still sitting single digits for their welcoming.
Who are the boys fighting here at Harvester?
For the boys, they seem to have already been getting aggressive. In some kind of fight, some kind of action, it's from one kill to the next, and for the boys, while they may take damage,
who the heck?
They're still looking here. Granted, with heals in what looks to be more of a rotation, I don't know if they're actually going to try to finish off the likes of Harvester.
Nah,
this
they
is
still
another
gotta
really weird place for the boys to play, is they are in fact going to drop back down in a bit of an unexpected move. Their POI being one that a lot of people will rotate through. And
bro, they got a lot of teams rotating towards them, though.
Area makes this really difficult. We do have another fight kicking off as Stay Healthy.
Brother, just turned the corner and saw everyone looking at him.
Immediately
you see how quick his HP went down?
Any
Holy
chance
shit.
of surviving and making it to this end game. Meanwhile, for the likes of Villains, far from over, a massive energy will punish DipQ out, and none other than Deathwish from behind will seal their fate, seal their deal, drop once more, and
Deathwish is going to try and step their game up here.
That was a really
because Deathwish is sitting down at 6 points before this game.
To open things up with the energy barricade like that, just made sure
all right,
no
here,
other options.
Here come the boys.
Happening one more time as the boys.
Ain't no party like a third party, because the third party don't stop.
If not faster, Babylon
do it to him.
Is
damn.
Is not chill at all.
I hesitate to expressively call that a fight, but when you are the third of fourth parties here, it makes it difficult. And with turnaround ahead, with a minor scan, the boys
like that play.
Immediately ready.
Zero
to
chill.
Pull things off here. So a reminder to fans out there, for your 40% lovers, seeing Deathwish go
How
down
you doing, Jazz?
With only
hopefully you've been good, fam.
Of KP is still a major potential win here if one of our top 5 walks out with a win today. If potentially a team like 202 win today's match.
Cooking that up.
202's been quiet today too, though, right? Are they down like? Yeah, they're down 16. So they ain't doing much better than Deathwish right now.
In any direction.
There are still 4 games.
But holding out towards the top end, it's going to be up against 40% work.
Nah, hey, vacation? Heck yeah.
Thermal and up towards the north.
Did you go anywhere for vacation, or are you doing a staycation for holidays?
Now, if
or maybe looking for more KP.
I'm interested. That was a conduit in play. Minor ultimate. Okay, never mind. From behind, we'll see. Same to be said for the boys rotating up on this one here. And while they might try to breach this choke, I like the fact that they hesitate.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned it earlier, but we're going to be live again at 9 for NA today.
But granted, knowing that they're in comfortable position, they say, why not?
My schedule's kind of freed up.
We've got the ability to fight things out, and arguably, most rosters who they are more confident in fighting have not made the full rotation.
Why don't I see anything from Automod?
Hey, Babylon move.
Babylon's is terrifying me right now with with the early gravity lift right after that previous fight, and
oh, that's probably because I don't have that in my dock here, so it's only on.
As they did, Insta Arcstar
Might mix it up, maybe.
Babylon's swings the solo member in the building, does deal a whole lot of damage, but it's the confidence that's getting me out.
Here comes the suckage.
Another Arcstar to follow this up, and Babylon's
doesn't get anything with his Arcstar, but does allow them to get through here, and his teammates on the bridge. This is a big swing here.
Will be picked up in the
that's big.
From those shadows are dealing
a nice angle by Clemmy.
This recognized as MPC. Babylon caught as one is picked up. Make it two here now. A 2v1
nice
situation
swap?
with a full shield swap for Clemmy.
Is it 2v1 or 1v1 here?
1v1 here. A knockdown shield ahead with an energy
barricade
coming out, though, makes it oh so difficult to survive.
Ooh.
Space.
Only problem is now they're going to get third party, right?
Boys play Apex Legends like it's baseball, just constantly swinging. The villains move in once more. This is the last member of the villains. The one that managed to escape.
Hey, you know what though? I feel like sometimes staycations are like
pick up on the
just what the doctor ordered. You know what I'm saying?
All the more difficult for the boys.
Because when you're on vacation, I feel like you have to see new stuff and go do things.
Comes in. I think the boys haven't been able to make actually any recovery yet. Clemmy still has a health advantage, but
it's gonna be tough for the boys if they don't get this one. I get scanned
nice scan
too.
Going through there will give away Clemmy's position, which ultimately would likely be the full push here.
He doesn't hear any footsteps though, so now he should know he can full send.
About pulling this one off, maybe looking to just bait things out.
Oh, it's a 1v1 here. I'm surprised Horizon pushed down here.
But has been heard out.
Oh my god.
172, that's a push. Quick shield swap, I believe, came out.
Oh, hold on.
Once again, Kinbar almost goes down. But the 30-30 hip fire, even with the nerf scepter, makes it happen. Nice play from the solo remaining member of Villains to not only keep them in the game, but gather even more KP.
Shocking, the boys never pull off a
no shoes, no shirt, no problem. True though.
Horizon was
I love it.
That play, but things to note is the fact that they still walk away from that game with at least at minimum 6 KP. That's enough that keeps them at least competitive in their journey here.
The difficult part of it is going to be that no placement points came with that. Being our squad in 6.
Bro, I can't see shit for the names on the team names, dude.
For all of the fighting that we've seen so far, a game that hasn't gone quite fast enough to make you feel comfortable.
And I'm guessing probably part of it is there's too many teams to like make an overlay similar to the way that you can like on Rocket League and stuff. But my god, like the UI in game is awful.
Ahead here in this current fight, already knocking out. There you go. 2, they'll find the remnants of silence are wiped by the likes.
Like, how am I supposed to read this green name while they're on a map that's green? Hello?
I assume. Bama?
Hey, sorry, I am totally floored by the fact that you read that as silence, and I read it as excellence. I'm gonna go figure that out.
I mean, how do you spell excellence and how do you spell silence?
No, I'm not disagreeing. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I think
Right.
Yeah. Right. I think they're both valid interpretations. That would be my argument.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Chat, Dia says that this is a valid interpretation.
I mean, I think it's excellence esports, right?
We need votes in the chat. I'm so confident that I do want the chat to get involved. Mesuko, however,
he said
probably
what?
not nearly as confident. Watching everybody go by the last member of Stay Healthy play close to the chat. We'll have to move along with everyone else. This is one of those choke points that we talked about earlier that was pseudo created in Skyhook, and it was definitely created last game towards the south end of Countdown, where now the southeastern side of this ring is about to become a bloodbath.
I like the fact that right there you can see it on the screen, 40% worse, knowing this issue take to the balloon.
Like, it's 1000% excellence, right?
Directly in thermal. This will be an issue later, though.
XILENCE esports
on the opposite side of that fissure itself.
All right, let's go 40% worse. They got themselves a great spot here, up on the top here at thermal.
Like LVH in 202, who hold happy positions towards the northeastern side of our further zone.
And this northeastern side that you talk about was something that was also prioritized by 40% worse earlier. They may not be there now, but the very fact that teams that landed in Thermal and had first pick of the zone started moving towards the northeast says some pretty critical things about where this zone is going to go. Because if there's anybody you expect to know these zone endings, it is the teams that actually land.
I am debating on if later this week,
may not even make it,
if we wake up early, a little earlier than usual,
will lose
and watch Chinese Ascension for VCT.
Find the trade, however, only has so much left as Radiant transfers on cooldown, and that means
no time for scrims is out.
No more Apex Legends. Game 3 of World's Edge is finished for no time for scrims.
Does anyone know if there's any more off-season events coming up for VCT?
The northeastern side of the ring.
Hopefully to find themselves a happy position. Now we, though, begin to see major southeastern rotations. Double Dark Veils down here on both sides. As look at that. Trying to foot their way in. A lot of teams are catering, though, to the train line below. It's not as bad as it looks like here. Native are actually alone from this position with a team that mirrors them in that position there. They do have someone on their left-hand side as this wall comes down.
By the way, I don't know if I've checked. Is volume good? Like, y'all can hear it a little bit, but not too loud where it overshadows me, right? Nice Horizon ult coming in. The suckage. Too easy.
A whole lot that you can do here. A lot of damage has already been taken by the zone, and OKS evaporate.
Oh, they see another team over the left.
It's a great position from Scary.
Nice. I love it.
To benefit this roster, but now with the other teams presenting where we most notably
so 202's over here. Who's FG?
Recovery for 202. They make an aggressive move to play off the other side, but Forbidden from below.
Oh, Forbidden Gaming
now gets involved here with the coup on that height, forced to drop back down. It's a great rolling thunder that pushes them back, but ultimately
this is gonna be tough if 202 goes out early again. They're only sitting on what?
Are likely
if it's 10th place, it's 1 placement point, 2 placement points plus their 1 KP. And they've been not doing very good today. And they've been relatively quiet.
Behind them, however, we know Tohu Tona just took the fight up against the last bit of OKS. And 202 will start pushing back towards the last remaining members of that squad. Caught between what looks like a rock and a hard place.
I just see if Vader wants to do some Monday Rocket League. Actually, I'm gonna do that.
Don't have that information.
Meanwhile, this is a position that they gave up. Right? Being in those buildings previously a dominant spot for the end game. Thought they could clean things off of the east, but instead were wrapped and taken away here, even if they are successful in wiping, defending.
Well, I realize it'll slow down the Apex South video. I'm kind of okay with that.
Is no longer available for now.
Just because
tower ahead, and well, they may try and punish potentially this last.
I know I'm going to try and get the 3 out relatively quick, and I'm trying to burn out early. Nice shots.
Tohu Tona now operating as a solo. Big deal for them, and no way to recover.
I also want to do a video about the high school championships I casted on LAN this weekend, because that was so dope. The student section was lit.
Thermal Station will have to make their way out, and 40% worse are included in that, our current lobby leaders.
Now from below 202 with 1 smoke ahead here are dancing between bullets.
I mean, the good news for 40% worse is they're not going to have to move too far, even though they'll have to give up their high ground. So they just have to hope that wherever they rotate.
Hasn't forgotten through and through. They remember the team that presented here is left up to Ozzy Owl to find the minor cover that may.
202 out in 8th, which means they still only get the 2 points. Falafel gets swung back on by. Or no, they went out in 9th. Falafel went out in 8th.
That as well. They swing right into Forbidden Sightlines and have essentially doomed themselves.
Odyssey out in 7th.
Them off. Odyssey are down and
out.
Oh,
now 40% worse is getting
Forbidden. That get
pinched
to
here.
Any part of this city. A solo from Tohu Tona is there. LVH are making their way in from the north.
40% needs a worse needs to find a way to.
Exodus from Thermal.
Oh, actually, if they get pushed now on the Final Finders, that'd be the time to do it. But it looks like Final Finders has better.
This is on that half at least, basically just
armor than them.
Of our Skyhook zone.
At least for now here,
because LVH is about to put themselves in a position where they can be a nuisance at 40% worse. You can see right here.
As LVH loses a lot of the space,
because that's going to be a sight line now. Final Finders pinches in. Yeah, final 40% worse is about to be screwed here.
Information from Finals being that it will be the push that results in very likely the end of both of these rosters here. Zerfer down, Mandy and Shiv make it potentially the namesake himself also eliminated. It's up to Mandy.
Mandy with 2 HP and a dream. Nope.
I hesitate to even call this.
It's all right, though. Top 4 is still pretty solid.
Impending sense of doom. 40% worse. Do fall. The next round starting to close in now as finals finders will make their way up.
That's
LVH,
not awful.
who was previously keeping both teams from being able to move up reliably, very distracted for the moment. They're going to need Jay Hanzo to pay attention to the low ground lest this third party come in.
Only problem is final finders was tied with 40% worse.
They may very well
so they're going to get better placement here.
Since it would be right at the back of Forbidden, who they're currently taking a fight with. This is kicked off so early. Finals finders have to hear this. This is LVH and Forbidden essentially gift wrapping them the game.
I don't understand how Final Finders is about to win this.
Above, like you said, the
Final Finders should have gone down when 40% worse went down.
Forbidden will be full wiped down to just a single member.
And they just didn't get to this game. There's no way.
At the hands of our final zone, make it a solo. And for Finals Finders, like you said, it must be Christmas early here.
That's insane.
It's 2 solos. There's literally nothing they can do. Finals
wow.
Finders come all the way back and finish off the third
big game for them too, because they picked up a decent amount of KP that game, right?
The victory in round 1. Great finish for them. And
had to have been.
I mean, where there's a throw, there's a catch. Both teams on high ground fight. Finals Finders know it's their time.
Damn.
It's as simple as that.
Well, like you said, a repeat from our original Sky.
How did they survive after the fight with 40% worse? What I want to know.
Minorly fell, quote unquote, behind.
I guess nobody wanted to go to the low ground.
Tied for first. This is now the perfect opportunity.
That's gonna give them a big lead over 30% worse.
Making their appearance.
It should tighten up the leaderboard behind 40% worse, though.
To potentially lead.
Now, I want to look at the standings because the fact that Finals Finders are, I imagine, currently in the lead should make this an even scarier race, not just for them, but for the teams that came into today having, and I'm putting this in air quotes, already qualified.
Wow.
Finals Finders can change that, so let's take a look at the standings.
Right off the bat with their win, they will now be dominantly in the lead from 22 all the way to 40 in 18-point game.
It does mean
puts Final Finders in the lead.
Bro, that lead's so big, dog.
Even still, a difficult ending for them in the third.
If Finals Fighters have a solid game 4,
into second there, and
it's going to turn this into like a 2-team race.
Now catching up
and the top 2 teams right now, top 3 teams right now,
to play.
Either win or go home.
3 minutes until the next game starts. So how about this? We'll take a break. We'll grab some water. This is halftime. We'll come back with Storm Point.
That's wild. I wonder if any of, like, if you're 202, 202 can't really do it though, can they? I don't know. So, like, if you're the boys, right? Since the boys have already qualified, do you drop on? Do you drop on Finals Finders? Now, probably not, right? If anything, you'd want Finals Finders to win because you probably feel better against them versus, say, 202 or. I wonder if that's something 202 would do, though, since they're struggling right now. Actually, the more I think about that, I think that's what I would do. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, I think if I'm 202, or even stay healthy, because stay healthy is still pretty low too, right? Wonder if we see it though.
Zephyr and I debate on the definition of cognition. We're about to jump to game number 4. Stormpoint is upon us. Let's go ahead and bring up the scoreboards before we jump into it, because, well, we've talked about the first couple of squads. Well, I want to touch back on the implications that we mentioned throughout the earlier parts of today, with very few teams coming into today feeling comfortable in the points. The boys, one of them, 202. Stay healthy, LVH, and 3 Dragons. 3 Dragons are currently at the very
Ooh, 3 Dragons too.
Leaderboards, and still with a lot of questions around their roster viability. Now we find finals fighters 40% worse and villains in our top 3, all of whom could just win in qual.
Right. What am I missing with the definition of cognition thing there?
With the boys, you know, still
I feel like I'm missing the joke.
Qualification no matter what here,
or missing the punchline.
Likely completely out.
Am I dumb? And it's okay to say yes.
Is set that the boys 202, Stay Healthy, and LVH are going to be those points-based winners for Pro League. The only thing, though, that does change that is if sneaking up here in 4th, LVH, or potentially 8th down there with the boys, one of these 2 rosters walks away with the win. If one of them, or even potentially 202 and 14th, and potentially all the way down there as well, Stay Healthy in 13th, then that opens up one additional slot for either Death Wish or 40% worse. Now, granted, this is all hinging on the wonderful, exasperated breadth of none of these teams winning in their own right, but granted, people are to calculate. Zephyr is here to try to answer some of those questions.
So let me rephrase what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was something from like the green room right before they went live, maybe.
For other people. And what you're saying is that because we have 4 teams that are basically going to make it, the boys 202, Stay Healthy, and LVH, they're feeling comfortable, they have a lot of points. If one of them wins, it opens up another spot via points for, as you say, 40% worse or Death Wish.
So, if anybody else wins, we already know our top 4 points-based winners, but if one of them come out on top, like you said, it opens the door to potentially 2. I'll say Death Wish and 40% worse. There's plenty of other mathematics, but those are the closest.
Okay, well, I mean, 40% worse are looking really good today. However, Death Wish did move up in the standings since the last time we talked about them, and we're just switching maps, which hopefully gives them a bit of a different angle to approach these games from. Right now sitting in 16th with 9 points. The jump up to 30 actually isn't that far in 3 games, but it will rely on 40% worse doing...
All right, come on. Let's see Shiv. I want to see Shiv in Pro League so bad, bro. I really want to see the 40% worse win today.
We'll see.
But like they have
how
to.
It goes here.
They have to win today, otherwise there's no way they make it
looking at, though,
off the preseason points. There's just no way.
Regarding some of these rosters, most notably for some reason already right off the bat, Silence Esports is in the hands of 2 pieces of Meat Mountain.
God, that is...
it's all Meat Mountain! It's all Meat Mountain!
Zephyr,
that's definitely excellent.
300 damage in maybe 2 seconds out of a Peacekeeper, and the most excited you've gotten today is seeing Newcastle locked into complete Meat Mountain. For shame. For shame.
Bro, honestly, Newcastle, the wave.
You just don't get to run Meat Mountain and not get a lot of that meaty Zephyr love here. I don't prey upon their success. I don't know if there will be any success. All I know is that is as good as it gets for ALGS. And most notably, the votes are in, by the way. But first, a contest.
Yeah, I did see that.
Oh, the Mozam from range can kind of slap, low-key.
For what happens in Mill, Native seem to be coming on.
All right, Native's got the advantage. Chase his ass down. Is there another team here? Question mark?
Out the 45 damage at a distance. Shield swap has come in, leaving you with much less HP, but the turnaround is big.
Oh.
VJax still needs to clutch this up.
He's got a white shield.
Well, another shield swap is
no way.
Native get danced on by the handsome men.
From literally a handful of missing to the end of this roster.
Brother.
And some men will be punished just as quickly here. A mutually assured destruction as none other than LVH ride up to seal the deal here. Now that's big for LVH, 4th place right now, and a guaranteed at least singular KP.
And all of the loot that comes with Mill as well. There's
Bro, literally, what do you swap armors 3-4 times? That's tough, bro. That's tough.
Start with, and we'll see how far it can take them, as we do appear to be going a little further north for this ring. 40% worse started making their way up with not a whole lot of shielding, healing, nothing, and they're starting to get sidetracked into an engagement.
A major rotation from Wanted down from the hillside, and granted, I can't spy out who might be the remnants of Launchpad there, but still a big, even wider rotation from 40% as Manny and Zerfer are looking for an entrance, maybe back towards the original POIs of this devastated
So they're going to have a bit to go here for 40% worse as they land down at Devastated Coast.
That they have one of the hardest rotations out and away here. We're likely to cater towards
Is this the one that like ends
western side of the trenches,
like almost dead ass in the corner of the building up by Tohu Tanta?
From 40% worse if there was a crafter there, but because there isn't,
or is this pull more down towards checkpoint?
They're trying to move out and up through spiders towards Storm.
No, it looks like it's not high enough for it to touch this building that's like right up here.
Otherwise, it's just a very, very awkward situation. Time will tell. As you say, NPC will start approaching from Echo HQ, actually likely taking a similar path as going through Pylon and into Villains is going to be very
It's going to be big for LVH, though, since they got to clean up that contested mill. They know they're going to have all sorts of time down here. Like, they're so good.
A dominant roster with a lot of extensive history. I mean, they don't just do it
because Forbidden isn't going to know that the fight's done over at Mills. They probably aren't going to rotate through Mill, right?
For now, though, we'll tune back on over to Stay Healthy, a team that hasn't had their best start today on World's Edge, and while they've had some of their few shining moments, missing out
like this.
Hey, picking up this KP could be their return.
3 dragons out.
Going 1 for 1 there, though. Does not look good. Thon and Mexico are
3 dragons have been struggling today, bro. And they're like one of those teams that could have used a big day.
Come in and a drop very late. Hipfire Sentinel does look good for Thon,
wow.
but right into the arms of a third party does not, and that third party should be finishing off.
See, this is where things get interesting because we might be starting to see a lot more ape game type gameplay here in these last couple of games.
Not going to give Death
for real.
A clear way out.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's at least the 2 KP likely for the hats of Stay Healthy, but Death Wish with this final pickup. We'll send, like you said, both of these rosters out, and we'll continue to hopefully bolster
them. So that already gets us down to 15 teams, and the first ring isn't even closed yet. That's crazy.
If all comes together, and for the likes of them, they need to be catching
What are these,
up.
scrims?
So far behind, 40% worse is a huge issue if it comes down to the mathematics.
Death Wish continuing to move now into the bunkers. Could stay here for the late game.
It is not match 3, right? Isn't it match 5? 4? 5?
And
this is our first one on Storm Point, right?
Yeah,
this is game 4.
Making their way all the way here was not accidental, and it was not greed. When you move this far towards North Pad, you plan to stay.
For Tohu Tanta, they are going to be the ones dominantly in the hands of these late game positions towards North Pad.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking all this. This was our second game on Storm Point, because this is definitely our first game. So yeah, game 4.
Knocks like this, they've got to be so careful. They've just begun to claim what could be their Pro League spot. They can't let Forbidden take that away.
Forbidden have already expended 2 ults in order to make this fight happen.
Good job to clean the upside before climbing.
And does a whole lot of damage along with the R99.
Oh my god, just drops down behind and just absolutely
everywhere. This should be the kills easily going the way of Forbidden. The fact that it's actually taken this long to wipe out Finals Finders, and they almost lose.
And Finals Finders out in 14th. I don't think they had any KP either, which means they should only have the 1 KP or the 1 placement point
in their last remnants, and will now be for the rest of the teams in this lobby who have gotten that notification.
All right, come on, Shiv.
Perfect opportunity for success. And
Mandy, Zerfer, let's go 40%
on their rotation to play more.
Let's get it
in the heat and center of that zone.
We need the Warlord back in ALGS, man. It just needs to happen.
With a little bit more extra KP on their belt, they're looking maybe a tail's breadth better on the overall standings. But once again, this is the perfect opportunity for 40% worse. I feel like a fanboy. I feel like there's bias, but the stories themselves are defining how they are.
It's just, they've looked really good. They've played with a lot of passion. As you talked about, there's so much goodwill built up towards these players throughout the history of Apex Legends. 40% worse are making good on that right now as they rotate through and into Lagoon. A large
40% worse is can't play on the outside of zone here. Wanted probably rotates through command center, right?
A little bit further north, but for the most part, I hesitate to
does 40% worse maybe run into NPC around Cascade Falls potentially?
So far, and everyone else is so spread out.
Easily one of the
yeah, I do think this is that circle that ends like on the corner of this building, like right
a whole slew of
here.
Aggression
I'm pretty sure
the pace of play and even some contests that now make themselves more apparent here. Things that I'll be watching out for though as we start to look at that final zone is look at LV.
So the two teams that are already up there are teams that like don't really. I feel bad for saying like teams that don't really matter, but like mathematically their points, all they're doing is taking points away from people who like need them. You know what I mean?
So close to potentially walking into winning spots as well.
Good shots to take out Jay Hanzo. The 3-2-1 really working for the villains who do get even more aggressive immediately following. Rev
it is so interesting seeing people play the Rev without the conduit.
Liffin heads for the hills. 1K
I feel like if I'm running Rev, like the conduit has to come with it.
Darn far if he wants to go for this. Does have eyes on both remaining members.
Just because they like
gonna give it up. Fair enough. I honestly didn't think they would chase that far.
They
but
kind of help each other, you know what I mean?
Villains a better spot in zone, as just having access to these bunkers is really big for them, and it of course has kept them safe from the ring at their backs for at least the next couple of
I got
minutes.
age restricted on the ticky-tack for Apex. That's funny.
Into the bunkers proper. Doesn't have ultimate just yet.
I forgot I've been doing mostly Rocket League watch parties over there.
2v3 is doable.
Could potentially go for this push, but you have to be super respectful because at the end of the day, there's still a lot of teams that haven't made their impacts or rotations in and could always be starting to pressure from checkpoint.
Villains were in third.
For Villains, they've lost out a lot of their
since Final Finders went out,
in this equation.
And I think we're sitting at 40 points. They only got, I'm pretty sure they only got 1 point added to their tally, so they're sitting at 41.
The time now is
if Villains have a decent game here, they could put themselves still more so in the conversation, depending on what 40% worse does.
For that further fight. Take it when it is more
because if 40% worse pops off here,
necessary in terms of rotating for that zone.
They'll one take over Final Finders.
Much of a potential risk.
Like if they have one, if they have like, you know, a 12, 14, 15 KP game.
What if you just walked up to us right in this hemlock?
Which I don't know if they will, but or if they could at this point with where their rotation's at. Because I don't think they've gotten any kills yet, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's possible that 40% worse could really extend things here.
Recommitting. Especially with the
realistically, I think with the way the scoreboard sits right now, if 40% worse were to win, they're probably only getting like 7, 6 KP.
With the actual execution
if even.
On the push, but it's coming.
I don't think they've gotten any so far, and they're playing
come back to bite them is
kind of more edges.
Being a little bit more, we'll say,
they're gonna be one of the last teams to the party.
With this incursion is going to come back and kind of diminish a lot of the resources that they have to work with when they have to get to a more notable circle. Noticeably, both the Villains and LVH aren't in round 4 yet. Neither have position. And in fact, there is a team ahead that holds that next major octagon, right? And if you are so deeply in depth impacting this next position ahead, I mean, there's no
the Watson fence is actually to hold down that building is pretty.
It's not even like
solid.
OKS have been playing.
Who's melted cheese
today either. OKS have played very, very well despite the way that they died in last game, having to make a late rotate. The fact that they're in zone now does put them in a much better position, especially with the small amount of high ground they have, to put up a good defense and to take out the 2 squads, as you're alluding to. We do still have time on the next ring close for all 3 squads involved.
If that pulls that building, they're nice because they got that high ground already.
In the next couple of minutes, but as we spoke of earlier, the amount of squads that have died in this early game and the ones that it looks like we may be dropping now is giving so much more room for error than is typical in a game.
Who's that going to be putting themselves into this year, though?
Well, speaking of error, NPCs will find they themselves in one for now.
So Wanted trying to 3P this.
This initial knock against Robin, and even with the help now of Wanted on their side, this will push them back.
I don't think there's any other teams on this side of the zone though. So like, I'm kind of surprised they aren't pushing up more to the right side. Oh no, yep, actually here comes 40% worse as well.
Oh,
There's 3 teams over here.
40% worse. Insta Horizon ult should buy them a lot more, not just room, but the ability to shepherd this team together.
Oh my God.
Members of 202 being currently melted by the thermite. Zerafer does need to land one more shot. It'll happen with 202.
Oh, it's the third party. Oh,
Swap barely saves their life as Shiv gets picked back up, but 40% worse. Now on the defensive side.
Yeah, I don't think you get reset here. Maybe?
Not too much more between them and Wanted.
For Wanted, this push here is.
I mean, they are able to get away from this. Hold on. Let them cook, chat.
Veil down though is a bit of protection for what looks to be the full runaway here from 40% worse and Wanted. They don't want the KP. They instead say, we've got 10 seconds till zone. A further chase on 40% worse.
Good call. Good call.
Net us and them.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you happen to get too engaged into a fight out here, you're kind of screwed. You don't want to screw your end game for just 3 KP.
Position amongst the rest of these 9.
Are they able to make it through this gap? I think they are. I think they are. Wanted do almost entirely make it through the gap. They are going to have to go back for one, but their story likely going to continue over the next couple of minutes, whereas this is a little bit less certain. Forbidden having to play in not a good spot in checkpoint.
At least where they're at now, they don't have to worry about zone once it closes in, but they do have a team on the roof here.
Full squad on top of it.
Ultimately, it's a position that can breed success, especially with those from the shadows. I love this move. Falcons going to be one that comes not just with the first elimination, but a return as well. At least, though, notably, they get the full wipe on Tutu, and with the return of Falcons back down to the second floor, this makes it a
2v3, yeah.
3v2.
Nice. Or 3v2, I guess, technically, yeah.
It's not a gold one, but still going to be plenty good with an arc star onto the ceiling.
I wish I was confident enough in my PC right now to do the team stream. Because I kind of want to watch Shiv's perspective right now. Or whoever's streaming from 40% worse.
Down, Zodiac going to be picked up as another member gets grabbed.
All right, top 10 here.
Continual fight that we talked of earlier happening with villains on the southern side of this ring.
There goes villains.
Elimination on that full squad with LVH, who was right next to them, having rotated in ahead, and OKS.
All right, so no Shiv right now for 40% worse, and I don't think they get to this revive. Good news is they get to the revive with the changes. You know, obviously Shiv comes in with shields and guns, but
rotation, Shiv pays the price at what I believe was a piece or present of some of these other rosters. Something that they will have to deal with is the fact that Forbidden, after their major wipes from above, will now get down.
Only problem is now 40% worse is going to have to play in one of these elbows.
40% worse further. Notably,
probably here.
Talking about available space to play here,
which then is going to be tough when he has to rotate up.
Home. It's just worrying regarding most of these Eastern teams who will likely try to be playing for the exact same trench line.
And Monday's playing really well just to put out damage onto Forbidden. This isn't something that is going to completely change the game in terms of instant KP for 40% worse, but showing presence in
but now 40% gaming's coming here, and you got that squad right over on this right side now, right?
Unfortunately, they've run into OKS, which forces, again, Forbidden back to the
now the boys come in here as well.
The
boys are going to be landing right in on 40% worse, though.
They want to land directly on top of where 40% worse just were.
And this is going to be something that pushes 40% worse head into the north, but it's a major distraction for them that comes at the price of
the boys did not. Yeah, they're so screwed here.
From the other side.
That's good for 40% worse because now the boys are going to be the main focus.
The entirety of the boys roster. Babylon down, and now Faco taking to the other trench line here will barely find the battery before taking the heat.
We got the Kraber in hand.
Kill goes to Forbidden, and it's revealed that there's now a Kraber in play, but in the hands of a solo.
So Forbidden falls back, and they're actually going to fall into another fight as well. This really works for 40% worse. All that damage. Shut up. Oh! No, that was a shield, right? That was a shield? I'm pretty sure.
Leaving Forbidden in the dust as they are destroyed. Facco, with a very little bit of cover, should be able to pull off the shield. Bat doesn't get spotted by the subsequent rotation, and instead drops down into the bunkers, somehow alive.
How is he alive?
Literally, with just a sliver of health there, we'll look for returns. Meanwhile, for Silence, as much as I love the Meat Mountain, we never truly got to see them shine on their rotation or their survival. Instead, it's a full wipe. Meanwhile, now Wanted, with literally but a corner to play with here, are stuck with
All right, so this means more placements for 40% worse, though, boys. Let's go.
To the boys, it's Odyssey who climbs their way out from this tunnel and tries to punish deep on the edge of zone.
And I know this is a little bit tangential, but Facco just got a Kraber knock in the kill feed.
Odyssey at some point is going to have to move out of this, though. As much as they've got it all set up with their fences.
A real thorn in the side of Wanted right ahead. The boys are continuing to put down pressure, even with just a solo, knowing that they have a Kraber to work with. Over towards the very north side of the zone, however, we've got teams that set up early. LVH still playing as a duo.
Hold on, 40% worse, maybe push.
Tonut lie in wait as Facco picks up another kill. The boys
he tried it
down, but
he did try
the
it.
KP that came with that is going to feel so good.
Top 5 remaining here, and we haven't even begun to discuss the major hold by Tohu Tontut and LVH in the buildings there. 2 of the full 3 men still left alive, and this major building no longer playable. A height to be taken, as it will be a minor push out from 40%.
All right, so 40% worse. Going to be playing. Oh, they're in zone here. Really?
Play from the building on the exterior might be enough to punish that roster, to punish Odyssey from going that direction instead of taking this.
As long as this team doesn't push up over from where they're looking to like right in here. Or what is it? What would it be like right in here?
Are likely going to come in
where they're like right up on top of them.
Worse in the next couple of minutes. A lot of these zones will pull outside, and 40% worse.
Yo, let's go, boys!
The other ones,
let's go, boys!
On low ground, definitely winnable from here as well, depending on how Tohu Tontut play the height.
Now, notably, if 40% worse go one position ahead here, they are now officially at least past the lead set upon by the likes of Finals Finders here. So playing small and quiet is all that they could potentially desire. But something that I want to discuss even more is LVH. Making it this far, this deep into it, in a position to play from building. They're well within the stack, but could be their potential return. Sadly, it comes without Jay Hanzo.
The moment, as everybody's considering how they want to play this out, it does look increasingly like Odyssey and Tohu are going to clash. Tohu very aware that sharing space is not something they want to do upon their drop from this building. You also have to be aware that you can't initiate onto OKS with a gravity lift followed by an ultimate, since Juso's ult will just be absorbed by a pylon.
So not quite where I thought it was going to end.
Not giving a lot of options.
But bro, all these teams are by each other. 40% worse, like dead ass, gonna be the last one of this party.
This is interesting. All 4 of the teams, or at least 4 of our teams, set within the edges of this building, and the trench just alongside it here. The real question being, where do they present? Where do they begin to push out here? Who takes maybe potentially opposite angles to make this one work?
Now, looking at 40% worse. Not going to throw any shots out just yet, but that's just because the smoke is in their way. Catalyst wall going to be used.
That was 40% worse wall, right?
By 40% worse, but it walls them in on the same side as Odyssey. Duo versus trio. Tohu Tontut know what fight they want to take. They want third party, whatever's going on over there. 40% worse, however, haven't actually taken the engagement just yet, and they're waiting.
40% worse get to be the last ones to this party.
2 members.
Do they pull this off?
They're likely going
There's
to go
no way,
down.
right?
OKS moving up to take this, what was supposed to be.
There's no way, right?
Instead, just being the first squad to eliminate one. LVH move out.
40% worse is going to win this as a duo.
Everybody's funneling into this Odyssey corner. 40% worse are still alive.
No, they're not.
Into the top three, Zerfer and Manny prey upon the minor space that they have, finally dropping
Imagine.
to take the fight directly. It's
okay though. They got the third and picked up a couple more KP.
Seals OKS in Odyssey.
And both of these last teams have been rather quiet today.
From above will win your game 4.
That got very, very scary, and 40% worse did almost make it.
Oh, they almost did it.
Catalyst wall to
Go
start
on,
the
Warlord,
fight.
bro. We need you in Pro League. We do.
Odyssey. OKS also had their moments on the low ground, but weren't quite able to climb up in time. This was still an incredibly close round on Stormpoint, and one that, as you noted, Zephyr, has likely kept 40% worse in the lead.
Yeah, this is something that
all right, but the scoreboards now should be rather interesting.
It is finals finders who fall incredibly early on in their take over towards the B.
As in the sense of, like, now more people could be within striking distance.
Only a 10-point gap
with 2 games left. It'd be different if this was going into the last game.
Fifth, which was, I think, guaranteed to tie them out. They found themselves out in third, an additional.
All right, I got a P chat. I'll be right back.
And maybe even potentially.
Also gonna refill my water.
KP in the midst of all that chaos.
I think they got a little bit of it. We'll pull up the standings and see what they're looking like after now 4 games. We have 2 left, and 40% worse do technically lead, albeit only by 2 points.
It is as tough as it gets here, and even more is the fact that LVH making it to that similar end game is going to make it oh so difficult for these teams to find their success here. If you're a roster like Final Finders or Odyssey or Forbidden, your chances of Pro League are oh so slipping away. But granted, there's plenty of games to go. 2 up on the board, and we know just as much as anyone else, the potential for resurgence all the way down to even 10th is still an opportunity.
It's exactly as you say, Zephyr. We are going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back with game number 5.
Hey, my bad, chat. I realized I was due for protein shake until I was out there. It's hard to get my protein in the day, man. There's just too much of it. I need to be eating, bro. Right now, I'm drinking like 3 or 4 shakes on top of my like protein heavy diet. I shouldn't call it a protein heavy diet because that'd be a lie. Decent protein diet. So our top 2 is still the same. It's just flipped, right? 40% worse now. Here, we can actually relook at it while we're waiting. Oh, or not.
Game 5 of the final preseason
All right.
qualifiers.
2 more games left, chat. I am probably going to have to head out at the end of this game.
We're going to send down today as
I'm going to leave the stream going because I'm just going to pick up Little Man. I'm going to be back probably like by the first zone of game 6.
Look at the standings as we prepare for our penultimate game of the day.
Now, during this break, I walked away and I did some math, but
I will probably
right
go offline on TikTok probably, but all my other platforms were on, over on YouTube and Twitch and stuff.
LVH walk
we'll
into
stay
a
up.
win. Currently, they are beating Death Wish by a minimum 230 points with their performance today, and with is a likely second place finish. But that's the theoreticals. They're currently in the lead. The real question that remains:
so realistically,
can they lead? Can they start to form the?
As long as these two teams don't have really good games,
it would be
you would
really
say from
to see
here
really
up,
many of these teams come out on top.
if they have a solid, like a really good game, they can put themselves in the picture. The problem is it kind of depends on those top 2 teams
in the preseason qualifiers
going out early or not getting a lot of points.
Made their way in as well and steal that away. Quite poetic with the name, and 40% worse, of course, with the history that we talked about, and the fact that they have been really performing quite well in the preseason qualifiers, though not quite well enough to put their names at the top of the list in terms of points.
Well, it's
yo, Chad, this strawberry protein shake I got,
tight
so
race
good.
From 2 points between them and second, all the way down to 8 for the third tie, to then follow more that 12. We are within one good hearty win to shake up our top 5. Past that, additionally, a just solid good game with KP for the top 10 as a whole. That is always terrifying here. If you find your way out incredibly early on.
All right, so 40% worse, up by 2 games left, chat. The Warlord.
You're pretty much praying a team like
pulling for him. Come on, big dog.
Falafel is walking away with that win.
Yeah, and that's going to be pretty darn tough because, I mean, neither of those teams are in great positions. So we'll see how the last 2 games change that, but it's unlikely that they move all the way up into our top 3, especially with how consistent 40% worth finals finders and LVH.
Then, Chad, again, reminder, we'll be live on all the platforms again tonight at 9 Eastern for NA. We'll probably pop live a little early so we can kind of look at things.
Been falling a little further behind as the day goes on in terms of overall placement.
And then the next 2 days, we've got Rocket League over here starting at 6 p.m.
We saw the decision making that.
Yo, what up, King? How you doing, buddy?
With a longer standing existence, right? I mean, especially
hopefully you've been well, fam.
We assumed the effect of cooldowns ahead, and knowing that LVH was a duo, that was the prime opportunity for them to truly make their impact. But it never quite came through here. Something though that I do want to bring up is a major congratulations and a hopeful for Odyssey. After that major win in that last game, that now puts them in the position to be contesting for one of those Pro League spots. What was potentially one of
gonna be doing
scariest or worst spots coming out of that game might now be a Pinhu Ludwig in
doing some Rocket League with Vader tonight before
and that itself
PLQs
would be
really
crazy
fun
to watch Odyssey rocket up the leaderboards like that and take the win. It does still require them to go over the heads of these Titans who lie in their way, but as we already saw with our first game on Stormpoint, they're very able to do it, and not just do it from a great spot either. Their rotation in, well, it was a good one.
All right, come on, start it up so I can see this whole game, man.
For them, especially
otherwise, I'm gonna have to go pick up C before it starts or it ends.
Down onto them with 40% worse sitting right next door. And let's not forget LVH, who tried to get mixed up in all of that. They had to fight off a lot of squads to do that, and it didn't happen on accident.
No, I mean, a lot of really good pacing and control to the action at hand. I mean, we made mention of it in our own predictions as that game was ticking through. Had they actually presented, gone for the fight, or extended themselves about anyone there, it could have been a quick cleanup from the likes of Tohu or potentially LVH coming out of that building, albeit seconds a little later. Instead of holding steadfast, dropping with the Watson defense, and allowing themselves to just present was a...
Yo, chat, by the way, if you follow me on Twitter,
Funnily enough, the boys
should go check out the pictures from the event on Saturday. The in-person land. The student section was so lit, bro.
To watch them play today, knowing that they've got the Pro League spot. However, the way that they've been playing hasn't net them any wins yet. They are still taking every fight, doing what they can to pick up as much KP as possible, and funnily enough, continuing with how they've played out much of the preseason qualifiers so far with a little bit of extra flair.
Up on Insta, too.
Now, for the boys, I will say, in 10th right now, they sealed that deal. But something that I have not seen from them that is a factor that they are known for is their impact regarding some of these other rosters. They're definitely a more crafty, meticulous team when it comes to that kind of decision-making. And if it comes down to it, they are one of the few teams that can actually be a Pro League decider right now, a Pro League gatekeeper. They already know they're on their way back in, and they are not a roster, especially if you've watched them in semifinals and further. They do not care about dropping on you, sending, and potentially wiping the opportunity away from you making it a Pro League. They could literally decide at any point right now that they don't want 40% worse.
Come on, man, drop us in.
Part of Pro League and just start messing with them.
Speaking of, actually, what about that mill contest? What? Because as you say, you know, your ability as whatever team to decide, hey, I want to mess with people's games is one thing. Your ability as your own team to decide, hey, I don't want to mess with our games is another that we have to consider. With 3 teams dropping at mill, the chance that you walk out of there alive, well, it may statistically be 33%, feels a lot lower.
Now, I do think LVH aren't actually particularly involved with the mill contest. I do think they are landing nearby, either that at Beast or potentially.
I was gonna say, I think they're landing at Beast, right? I'm pretty sure they're landing down Beast.
I mean, you're on the right track.
Like almost positive.
Potentially throwing that away for the early game should hopefully be a change up in these teams' initial drops. Because as good as Mill is,
all right, chat. Game number 5.
Success in that contest.
I am probably gonna need to walk around the corner to pick up Lil Man here before the end of this game. But I will be back then in that case, probably right around the start of game 6. I'm still going to keep it live. Don't y'all worry.
Silence Esports.
Just means I'm going to need y'all to behave and chat.
The rest not really changing, although we have seen a lot of Revenant today, and I've really been enjoying it.
Rev Conduit, definitely, apparently the pace of play for a lot of these teams is they are catering towards building that aggression alongside the From the Shadows ultimate, giving that extra 75 health, and then the massive ability to pair with Radiant Transfer.
Do we still see the Conduit
who don't
Rev in Pro League, do we think? Or is that just more in a lobby like this where the skill ceiling isn't quite as high?
By substituting Bloodhound in, making those smokes even more advantageous, giving them a pseudo digi at, well, split-second decisions.
And we did see how reliant they are on Rev cooldowns as well. Because you are banking on having a little bit of extra HP and wiggle room on King.
Appreciate you, King.
Follow-up from Bloodhound Bang, it does leave you in a slightly more vulnerable position when you don't have ultimates available. So carrying ult excels may actually be something that either they're already doing or that we should see more of out of this roster, because you are gate-kept from fights by not having additional shielding available to you. Speaking of fights, however, we've already got one. Native do drop again, this time not over by Mill, but still straight into the arms of another team.
It is going to be...
Are they just reactive dropping?
On their success with at least the initial drop, as Scary will be looking for ops rotations and... Minor.
Oh, he's got the sentinel. Oh, shut the fuck up!
Crack makes an
no way.
Knock now in a 1v1 here. Scary. I hope they come back or they find success here. VJ has left the lobby completely.
Yes, if Scary clutches this, it is going to be.
That is.
Not a good look. We'll see. Arcstar out. Just to buy a little bit of space for it, but Scary does not have a lot to work with. Those longbow shots that we saw earlier are not going
no way!
They're happening consistently enough that I'm scared. Another 50.
Oh!
Another one.
One more. Hit it.
More shot.
Oh my god!
No time for scrims are gone. Scary is exactly that.
Oh my goodness!
We'll get to pick up names. This is really, as good as it is, It is really not good.
Wow.
DJ leaving early there out of frustration, whatever it may be, is a huge issue for that roster now, stuck as a duo, even though they come out on top. Meanwhile, for Odyssey, as good as we like to hype up this team coming through from our break, they now suffered the defeat in Villains outside of the Jurassic area. That's going to be one of their first resurgences for early.
God, I got to at least see that. My goodness.
Of their lead.
All right, boys, looking to maybe run towards
to pile on now.
Excellence Esports over at Command Center, maybe?
Puts them in another great spot to play out the ring as well. You can wait over by Pylon and continue farming for kills as Villains. You can think about what other teams are going to make their way in over by Barometer. And for Three Dragons, interestingly, who landed over by Coastal Camp, they can continue to play out of the south side of this zone. Not a whole lot of teams should be rotating in through that way, and it may provide them more placement points than they've seen the rest of these games.
Well, we'll see if they're able to survive as this lobby continues to accelerate in terms of its aggression. 202, one of those rosters who had shining performances, at least in our second preseason qualifier today, have had, well, yes, some great moments, are still looking for their potential take to get back up on that leaderboard. I know they're secure in their overall placement, or very likely into Pro League, but to secure that win, to stay even more confident above the remnants of Stay Healthy and more, makes this even important.
Donaghy down. Looks like a res has, or should have, gone off on the other side. There's certainly been the time. 202 are playing with the respect as if it has happened, but now spotting up a knockdown shield and knowing that they've secured one additional KP are going to be very happy to continue their rotation through Cascade. OKS have continued moving further down, and the Villains, as we talked about, are continuing to farm KP over on the outside of Pylon King. Again, taking the off angle, this time without the ult, but certainly the mobility to get back to the team will open things up for the rest of the lobby to claim these kills and let Villains march right back on into Pylon victorious.
Well, I mean, it's not settled just yet here. Big defense on the other side, but now with presence towards the hill, and yes, cracks in the bow check. It's looking more and more of it. A knockdown shield now removed. It's almost, you just kind of want to see if maybe or not they can get the kill, or if other rosters secure this one out. If it's the Villains, you know they need every single point here. So, an extension from King V up towards height.
Nice little push. Now goes for the bat. Rest of the teammates rotate in for the swing.
No way to push
easy.
Down from the hill either. DivQ has done a really good job with
that's tough for Deathwish going out early there too, man.
Walk down. With Deathwish gone, this just gets even more difficult for them, Zephyr. We've been talking about the Deathwish 40% all day.
Yeah, it's a potential tie that will come into impact if we see one of our 5 win. Meanwhile, though, for talk about the remnants of a fight against Forbidden here. They lost out on Calamitous early. Now with the grab lift and play,
Bro's getting messed up by a Prowler like this.
The heat of things against Vast, but leaves it up to a 2v1. Falcons clearing out some of these remnants of the energy barricade with the full swing. Will find them before the black hole makes its impact.
Gotta respect that from Falcons. That was a clean beam, and what a way to keep the team in the game. Handsome Men, unfortunately, not going to be accessing this one as Forbidden can now make.
All right, we've got
Barometer,
looking like more of a Barometer ending. It looks that looks like it's got a green tint to it, right? They've got.
I'll be honest with you, Zephyr. I'm not predicting the zone that ends on these buildings. Rather, one that moves us significantly closer to Jurassic in the long run.
Well, we'll see. Zone is shoring up more directly against the southern side, which tends to correlate towards a deeper pull into the POI. But potentially right, especially if we make our way back up towards that northeastern nut where it comes out of the choke. That's gonna be a huge
I think this one ends up over like by this building here, right?
Out. But at least for now, we've got a very dominant hold by 40%. Stay healthy.
Or maybe like the couple of buildings that are like right here.
Finders here making
probably that. The ones that are coupled up here.
The boys start their journey into Cascade, where it looks like 202 are lying in wait. Could see a very quick fight break out there, perhaps even in the kill feed as.
But we got 40% wars. The Warlords in zone, baby.
Looks like the fight has broken out. Remainder of 40% worse, however, still just hanging out in Barometer and looking instead to pick up their Evos, are going to have an easier time than most other teams. of making their way into a late game situation.
And we do get a confirmation on that next and further zone. We are going to be going even more directly into the heat of Barometer. So we'll have to see how things end up, because that usually ends in quite a stack with the direct.
That means we can have a lot of teams left in this final circle.
One of those two buildings being potentially one of the sides of that pole, but
because it's got multiple levels out there. You can play in the building, top floor, bottom floor, the roof, or at least the roof on one of them usually.
Barricades down and evac is in play, but you can't take it now, especially with the grab lift from the boys. A push forward from Ozzy Owl starts things off, but an immediate response with a Radiant transfer that saves the day here. If they'd like to leave, they can do it, but maybe they're feeling feisty. Instead, they take to the skies.
And Ozzy should be okay, even as the last member on the evac tower, to make their way through into Jurassic, with Villains right ahead of them, starting off a fight against Silence in that very same POI. It does look like we're pulling a little bit further south this time around, and the Villains, as such, are going to have to make their way through a lot of teams, something that I'm sure they have no problem doing.
You know, they'll plow and mow and shape up against this choke here and look for what I can only assume is that next chunk of damage there. Pineapple Nut Building is taken out and away, and that is Silent of all rosters. The only Caustic in the lobby here.
The Caustic?
Actually, surprisingly, makes this a bit difficult with major defenses like the shields from the Newcastle and the
Beefy Boys.
As well. Pushing into Meat Mountain is a true challenge, especially now that you've lost the Forbidden Shadows.
Nades are making this quite difficult, however, on the inside, with the bubble down, with gas traps ticking away, now with no mobile cover.
They're just going to back down off this, huh?
They got hemorrhaged, but Villains do back off.
Playing a conservative, good call.
They may not rotate well.
Nah, because they've already got themselves a couple of KP. If you get a good placement, you're going to pick up more KP along the way. I like that call.
Hold a building here. For Silence, they survive, and those resources.
Whereas if you engage too much in that, either you create too much of a sound, you lose somebody, you don't look good for like the end game. I think it's a really good call.
Happen here now with teams like 202 shoring up from the northern side, it gets much harder that without being immediately punished.
The rat plays.
They can find. Scary is already.
It's the boys.
Plenty today, but the boys turn around onto the duo and are going to make this even harder. Bacco does go low. He's kind of getting bamboozled around these rocks and goes down without doing much.
All right, now it's a
anything.
2v2. Oh, that's a good thermite.
A big pick, and now Conduit starting to move the rest of the team back.
Oh no, Clemmy's stuck.
Once again, Clemmy on 1 HP is going to go down to the ring. Babylon's the last one left, turning to face the duo with Scary down. He's going to try and pop.
I mean, luckily the boys don't really need anything today. They're already clinched based off points.
Immediate syringe that will force Clemmy down instantaneously here. Babylon's now ticking. At some point, we'll have to look
out
for the heal on this medkit. This is that perfect opportunity, but ultimately comes at the price of health, the price of a ring.
The ring is a cruel, cruel mistress, but credit to Native for sticking it out for so long. We did talk about those syringes super early on. Keep an eye on the kill feed.
Bro, I'm literally gonna miss the end of this game. That's so sad.
202's exit from Jurassic has led them into
kind of looking where time's lining up.
As they look down on OKS.
It's a nice position to land some of these early and easy shots here. He'll find one, but no more other than that. Granted, putting a team ahead here at a deficit to walk into this next zone is the perfect opportunity for you yourself to exist one further position forward here. We get to tune in directly towards the
40% worse in final zone.
Seeing in our end game, and it's that 40% worse building end zone. I mean, this is the one where we see things pull away from that spire, a big drop from above, and a contest between 4 to 5 teams as they hold out on the minor space and the little divots that exist off of the Barometer Direct.
Watch, they're gonna win, and I'm not gonna be here. I'm gonna be hurt.
And excluding strategy, excluding everything but the story that's led us here, you go, is this plot armor? 40% worse are so comfortable right now. That building really difficult to push, and the only team that can do it really a duo, perhaps for now. A rotation from 202 will have to wait, but not for too much longer, as they themselves have a lot of distance to cover until joining the duo of OKS in the ring ahead.
202 here will take their shots at an evac, but will ultimately miss out on getting that full wipe there. And granted, it is going to be something that caters back towards
boys back as a trio, huh?
Boys, but as they start to breach into this barometer area,
oh,
I can't imagine
well,
even from behind they won't be facing many difficulties. I love this follow through from 202, but it still doesn't answer the question for either one of these rosters. How will they present? How will they cross this distance? Where will they find themselves the positions that be?
Especially when there's not that many more cooldowns left for 202. They expended a lot of them to get these kills, and now are certain to be focused from the northern end of this
there goes
ring.
the boys.
14 squads left, and the boys gone. 202, yes, they're eating shots from a distance. They don't have that many close
Oh,
by.
dude, 40% worse. Looks like they're in such a good spot.
With the final closing and taking us directly into the area at hand. The POI that we know here, it's the final moments for teams like Silence to make their rotations. And as good as their hold was, I said it earlier.
All right, chat.
It's crossing the distance, the long trudging cardio.
Otherwise, King's going to give me your name, you're getting banned.
Surprisingly, they aren't fully wiped here, but it is going to be inevitably Villains who, albeit they don't get them on the first time around, find the knocks at the end.
There you go. Here, we'll show you a hold. Well, make sure you never see the inside of this. Silence do go down, and now Villains own the north part of the map. Their next push, taking them into either 202 or NPC likely, as OKS do look out towards the northern end of this ring, but don't actually have a lot of say in how it goes. It's Villains instead that really get to decide how the rest of this lobby plays out. At least for the edge teams.
Right. Wanton and 202, though, looking to be that next fight here on rotation with already a drop down onto Clone early. Trying to break down that door will inevitably, yes, find full knocks onto Clone once again, but are still looking for additional damages. Surprisingly, they've lost the bitter pieces of what make up Wanted. They have come through and are left with nothing.
Weird how Wanted just managed to get away into the wind like that, but I'm sure they'll be found, as there's really just not that much space left to play in this ring, even with 13 squads. LVH at a critical juncture right now are going to try and play for dominance over the south end of the zone and wall off towards Forbidden. This is a straight 3v3 if they can take it in the next 20 seconds, but LVH are being kept at bay.
I mean, with the thermite ticking out here, they need to find some manner across that distance, and it'll be at the hands of a huge ordnance. Make it two, as Zodiac as eliminated now with only one person left standing. They'll take away every energy barricade that be to find their fight here, to push into the next zone ahead. They still haven't quite sealed the deal, but with their own zoning control in play here, and with Forbidden picked off by the likes of 40%, they've done.
Great timing on that, and the chances that LVH get sent are very low. For 202, very different story. Everybody and their mother can access this building, and 202 playing on the ropes right now with not even the zone allowing them space to hold. They're going to get shot out the whole way in, and even dropping under the bridge. They've still got to take a fight up against Villains, who they do, granted, eliminate. Nobody else dropping on them just yet, but do you have time to res this, or will anybody from up top start to get a little greedy?
I mean, this is the perfect opportunity, but you have to worry about from below more than anything.
Nope.
Avatar, that was a roster in the steps of the building below. Comes back to pay the price now, knowing that they have that issue to work with as well. Gives the opportunity for Ozzy Owl to come back into the fray of things, stick that 3, and bring 202 back into it. But I want to talk about this next zone because I love 202, but their potential of survival is minimal at best here. Instead, we look towards the buildings that be towards that south side, towards 40% worse, and LVH. The only two rosters to truly present well within this zone here. Notably though, Dia, Finals Finders are that team on top. They get to wait things out. They get to make a good claim at this next position here, whether it be on the roof of this building or potentially somewhere else.
I was going to say the roof is honestly the most easily accessible position to finals finders, as most teams are running with a horizon. You have simple access that really never leaves you touching the ground to get onto height in the next zone, and then potentially gatekeep teams that are left standing inside the building. It's definitely the clearest play for finals finders. Not sure if it's the one that they'll take, but it is still going to be a battle of attrition ultimately up against their real nemesis, 40% worse, who have done so well to predict this zone. 202 go on another push, seeking out any stragglers towards the south end of the zone. LVH have already rotated out. They can still come up behind them. LVH know this is happening, but with low ground, they can't do much.
Literally insane here. They'll find at least some minor damage, and it is going to be percent that finds that knock onto Liffin on the other side. That's why we saw these Dark Veils out early here, but it doesn't cover enough distance for 202. Instead, now with it officially down, they're going to do their best to find the KP that be here with everything else in play. Turn tail around this wall. They need to settle these knocks, or else that'll be it here.
Shield swap needs to come in for Miscam, and it does, just in the nick of time. Rakafaka completely thirsted now, but making it into the top 8. Still a victory for 202 as they've taken bites out of LVH so far. Very little space to play, but still technically in this, and nobody really wants to send it onto 202, because committing to low ground is in itself a death sentence.
It'll be something that guarantees them their success, but this was the question I had. Where did LVH go? Because they're not the wall ahead, and there's no way they test for space on the building. A minor, and I mean little to nothing, crack behind the wall presents them with the opportunity to survive, and you hope 202 or just about anyone is tracking that one out, because it looks like they don't even have the resources to get shielding back up.
We called this out earlier, but those kills, those LVH kills, should belong to finals finders. Sitting on roof, may not have the most time to hang out up here, but do still have plenty of it when it comes to the later game. Ordnance has caused them quite a few problems, though. They're getting full sent. Finals finders need to put up a defense, and they do. 150 on the car is good. It's not quite good enough. The Skynades really did a lot of work, and finals finders send it down onto the low ground right next to a rat. Get eliminated. 202 join them. 40% worse. As a result, get to walk on out of this building and right onto the height that should have decimated them.
That was the push that could have sealed the deal here. The problem, though, is that in comparison to how this zone typically plays out, the buildings are leaving much earlier than usual. Now from Savitar will go for the climb up there for Shiv May. Oh, look, vibe of face their ends here over towards the side. Shiv and crew will hold out, but will inevitably from the low ground be shot out. Manny, the last one left standing, will try their best but find fourth. It will come at the cost of Falafel as well, though. And now 3 dragons versus LVH here, surviving as a no help to boot, just a radiant transfer. Juicy will be picked apart, but a shield swap. It's the dream alive.
3 dragons as a duo are going to clinch this game. 1 shot left, and they do it. What a game from 3 dragons, who, playing out of the south side of the zone, had absolutely no right. But we said it moments before. This was a game of duo Zephyr. I don't know what happened to change this all going into our 5th game of the day, but we had duos to start, 2 duos to finish, duos on duos on duos decided this game. And of course, I mean, 3 dragons had the most practice doing it.
They may not have the points to qualify, but I'll tell you what, that win a game with impacts here for the rest of this lobby, especially for the likes of LVH as a duo surviving there into the end. That could have been the return for them to sit above the rest, to be this close to the top lobby.
And they should have died. Like, in theory, they should have died, but 40% worse, in a way, save LVH by taking the fight on height and eliminating finals finders. making that endgame play out in such a weird way. It does work out well for 40% worse. They do get a lot of points. In fact, I want to take a look at the points before we send it into Game 6, because it is incredibly close moving into our last game. 40% worse have an 8-point lead on LVH, but the difference between those two winning is a massive one.
They have extended the gap by a bare minimum, but at least an additional 4 points here now to sit 6 above the rest. But it doesn't change the fact that between Finals Finders, LVH, it is a 3-horse race for the potential to win here. If that bar continues to raise, it gets ever so more difficult for Forbidden and Odyssey and Villains, but far from impossible.
Yeah, this is going to be very close. It's going to be very exciting, and it's going to happen in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere, except maybe to hydrate, because Game 6 is coming up right after the break. Well, it's time, Zephyr. All this for preseason qualifiers, and it comes down to this game. This is the final time in the preseason that we'll actually get to see these teams do what they do best and fight for a spot in Pro League, and only one of those spots is available as a result of winning today. So many teams' fates are decided by what happens in this game. Let's take a look at the standings one more time and recap a couple possibilities, because there are several, but it really comes down to two main ones.
So, right off of the bat, the one that we're watching out for the most is the fate of 40% worse, because it fills out two specific situations here. If a team like LVH, a top competitor with lots of PSQ standings, wins, then we get into a situation where Stay Healthy, 202, and the boys walk away with 3 of those qualifying spots, and it comes down to the performance of Deathwish versus 40%. And right now, 40% is leading by 290 points, albeit Deathwish can change that by having a good final game here. The other factor, though, is if anyone else wins, anyone who is not LVH, stay healthy, 202 are the boys.
Say like finals finders.
Say like finals finders, or 40% worse. We already know the 4 teams moving in from the overall points.
Okay. So 40% can win, get a spot in Pro League. And then we've got 4 teams making it. Finals finders can win, get a spot in Pro League. 4 teams making it. LVH can win and force a decider between 40% worse and Death Wish that looks like it's going 40% worse's way. Am I missing something?
If any other team, if a team other than LVH stay healthy 202, the boys are 40% worse wins, 40% worse will not be in Pro League.
Okay.
So have to win, or LVH has to win.
Two out of 3 scenarios that I'm seeing here. 40% worse from right now, the 66.6% chance to make it into Pro League. If we're weighting all of these evenly, they're not technically even probabilities, but there are 3 options. And that's what we're going with heading into this last game. Very few points.
If you ran the lottery, the chance is either you win or lose. 50-50.
50-50. It's 50-50, Zephyr.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what,
worse. Very close.
At the end of the day, the only thing any team really needs to know right now, if it sounds confusing, if you're lost in the sauce and you're getting deep within the spaghetti, just win. Just win.
Just win.
If you win, you go to Pro League. You don't have to worry about the headache that is preseason qualifier points. You just get to have a spot. So aim for that and nothing less.
All right. Well, few teams are in touching distance of that. Again, with the bar being set at 52 points, does make it really difficult for anyone below 7th to make it in, and even NPC would have a difficult time, meaning that 40% worse had to have a very low point game. So we're really looking at our top 3 squads as being those that have the best chance of walking away with the win today, and really any 3 of them could do it, depending, of course, on the performance of the others. This is going to be a game where we'll be keeping track in the background of what is becoming more likely, where the probabilities are shifting as we go on. But once it's over, it's all up to the leaderboard magic behind the scenes. Let's get ready, or hope that we're already ready, because Game 6 starts now and not a second later.
The scary thing, Dia, though, there is a huge issue that is starting to arrive. And it's in the fact that some of these lower teams have no chance today. They're likely to now be in a situation where, if they want to, the impact of their playstyle and their game can be the decider, can be the gatekeeper of so many rosters out there. The boys aren't winning today. It would take an insurmountable super win, right?
Yeah.
But they also know they're secured. So why not decide the fate of these other teams? If you're someone like Falafel at 20 points, you could play the game out to the best of your ability and position wherever you want to be. Or you could say, I don't want this roster in Pro League. I'm going to drop on them.
So you're saying the boys can play God.
So many teams could play God right now.
Yeah. A lot of gods. Also, I want to apologize to everyone. I did cast or curse the lobby. I said we were starting now and not a second later, and we have to restart. But that's okay, because the restart is already being built up on scenes. I want to take personal responsibility.
I'm mad I missed the duo winning, man. That's insane.
Yeah. Shame on you. The lobby has a 50% chance of either starting or not starting.
This just occurred to me. Do kids still do this? Did you do this?
Tisk
Did you
tisk.
do that?
Shun?
Yeah.
The shun? Yes.
Yeah? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I
He's
find
lying.
myself
He ain't never
asking
done
things
it.
like that because sometimes there are things that you did in your childhood where you're like, that's normal, and it's not normal at all.
All right, so 40% worse on top
You're
by
like
6.
27. You're not like 60, bro. As much as you like to act like it.
This has nothing to do with my age. This just has to do with people having different upbringings.
No, it totally does. It totally does.
Oh, really?
Our producer says not in Europe, though, so maybe I'm wrong. Apparently this is not a thing, which makes actually a lot of sense.
Does it? Do people not have fingers in Europe?
That's insane.
you'd be surprised to find that the digits are but the same, Dia, no matter what country you enter around the globe.
All right. Well, fortunately enough, we're going to get to see those fingers go to work as we are about
not
to get
like
into
this
our next game. You understand, because we're playing games and the games require the fingers. Most of them. I think you can technically play without fingers, but it does get a lot harder.
Hey, funny enough, you literally bring that up. There's a player in this lobby who does not play with his fingers during the off ends. Shiv.
Oh my god, you're right.
Shiv plays with his feet sometimes.
You're right. I totally forgot.
I don't think he's playing. He's definitely not playing with his feet.
He's not playing
right
with
now.
his feet.
No,
that would be so disrespectful to go into preseason qualifiers. But he can, which is, you know.
Well, yeah, he had an injury, right?
Pretty cool.
It is. I don't know when I would need that skill set, but
I think it was actually like dead ass an injury.
In this particular lobby, however, I think it's I think I should get back to it, since the lobby is almost ready to go once again, and preseason quals last game is where we're at.
Chat, game number 6.
3 different possibilities. 66%.
One time for the one time. One team gets in based off of an auto qual.
That's how that works.
4 teams get in based off of points.
I don't think Dan knows math. Oh,
that's understandable.
That's
Statistics
fair.
was a really tough topic. Statistics was tough for me.
Is statistics math though? Like, I mean, it's like applied math, but like.
Yeah. Just an essay. We should send them.
Like, I understand that there's numbers in statistics, right? But it's not like really math.
We are waiting on restarts and things like that, mostly because players want to make sure that they are nice and connected and fair enough. We also want them to have a good competitive experience. It's just
game 6, man.
Taking a moment to breathe before game 6. The calm before the storm.
Well,
all comes down to this, chat.
Not much to say in terms of where these teams will end up after this one, other than the Pro League ahead here. So I guess the only thing to think of now is kind of analyzing.
Here, while we're waiting real quick.
At least for you, Dia. From
here's where the lobby sits.
Not just today, but also what we have gotten out of No Days
heading into this game.
Well
40% worse, up by 6 points and 52 points. Final Finders has had 2 early outs, currently sitting at 46.
What was then
I would say realistically it feels like a 3-team race, right?
Last time around and went on to be a very successful entity within their first split. So, do you think anyone potentially rivals those kinds of capabilities?
That's a good question. I always find that coming from either preseason qualifiers or challenger circuit, it does make for a really difficult entry into the Pro League. I do think that players have a good start, but I think that we have almost a better shot from teams that have managed to make it this far and have gotten this many reps in the preseason qual experience, because part of the advantage to that is that you get that.
I don't know if I believe that so much about preseason quals.
Especially in the first 2 preseason quals, and you have a playstyle that's clicking slightly better than everyone else in the new season, you just kind of get to roll with that and not get as much practice in the aftermath facing off against the competition the likes of which you face in the PSQ.
Because I mean, if they're there, that means they're already in scrims, right?
To see one of our later teams have a better start in Pro League, but that's just me. Is somebody standing out to you? Is somebody thinking?
At least for me, before we jump into this game, I am excited for the remnants of players. Fitu making his return after years of long pushers. Kazik in his first representation of what kind of caliber he brings to a roster outside of his presence on 789 is a huge storyline we'll have to follow. And then Jukes, kind of a newer face that has existed previously well within the Apex community, but not on this level here. So, for them and many others who have already made their claim, send 5 more rosters to join along.
So 3 dragons as a duo again,
yes.
huh?
Somebody's joining players. Somebody's going to go toe-to-toe with them. after today, and
wait, they were saying earlier they've always been a duo, right?
And this team, or this game, determines not just the fate of our one first-place team, but so many others alongside them. We are, in fact, beginning game number 6 now, the final game.
Chat, before going into game number 6, man, if you're watching over on YouTube, do me a favor, make sure you hit the like button on the video. It helps as far as the discoverability on it after we publish it. Also, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button. We're chasing 500 subs by the on my birthday in February.
A threat, a massive,
which I think would put us on pace for around the Thou round, the Thou Wow around the end of the esports season.
Final game 6,
which would be kind of cool.
Like I said before we got into this game, so many of these teams can be either playing their best Apex.
If you're not watching on YouTube,
with fates at hand,
hit exclamation point YouTube in chat.
You get to decide so much.
And make sure you subscribe.
And we've seen it happen already with Native's fights over at Mill and at Cedo. They have single-handedly changed the leaderboards, whether it be LVH coming in to clean them up or Native landing once again for the fight. Alternator early up against the flat line, but seems to be going just fine for Name. Again, BJ does go down early.
Big 2v1 here.
It with the alternator right now.
Oh, it's over.
Native in the lead.
GG's.
A 30-30 R99 in hand for Scary is just not allowed here. And for Native, they are successful once again on the.
And you get the contest done quick too, so you don't have to worry about a third party.
Of their roster, albeit do it 3-4 times as fast.
This is a much better look for them, and Ceto, I believe, came with crafting this time around. So a much better start in terms of the loot that they'll get after this as well. 40% worse. Still playing around Mayfish Farms, rest in peace, Devastated Coast. Not fantastic for an early loot path, but if you're planning to play around the edge anyway, 40% worse.
I mean, realistically, if they win the fight with Wanted, they kind of get a free rotate into zone from there.
And make their way up towards the north.
I think it would probably just go straight towards Falls, which means maybe you have to worry about Village, but Village probably honestly head more towards
it does not really very well any team that can currently see the secondary rotation. Checkpoint still well and available, albeit we like to think it
Wanted coming in towards 40% worse.
Yes, the hot dog buildings, or trenches as I like to call them, up there are
big fight here for Wanted, or for 40% worse, taking on Wanted.
Often, sometimes it does work its way back towards that southeastern side if you aren't careful. For the likes of 40% worse and Final Finders, they are far and away from the zone. LVH, though, just a handful of a distance out from the west.
You know, this is one of those rings that I find looks a lot better for teams that are playing around the edge and they're taking early fights, much like Deathwish are right now, fighting for their very tournament lives. Just remember, their points against 40% worse mean quite a bit right now. An extra nade gets thrown in here, and we should see Meat Mountain fall. Silence do go down so quickly, but Deathwish.
Can we go see the 40% worse fight, please?
That suffering pretty severely in the health pools, just Silence suffering more critically.
This is going to be something that puts them 3 points up now on the board. It doesn't push them past 17th on the overall roster, but one big thing we missed out on in the heat of that fight is Wanted getting involved, wiping out Shiv, and paying their respects to the likes of 40% worse. This is what I talked about when I said anybody can make this happen here. And while it's likely that they might have that banner, for 40% worse, losing out on him is a huge issue.
This is tough, bro.
Not gotten the banner. Still stuck out in the way.
It's really difficult to get there as well. Makes me wonder what Shiv was even doing that far away from the team, but Monday's going to send it across.
I mean, realistically, he probably lands at these northern buildings and loots, right? And just didn't expect Wanted to rotate up as quick as they did. Wanted probably did like a 60-second loot
for points like they'd have to,
and then pushed up from there.
Doesn't seem good for them. Here we go. Dropping down onto the low ground. Does look like he's going to get away with this. Odyssey, however, not going to get away with anything as we've dropped down to 7.
All right, so you've got the banner at least.
In this game already. Another accelerated pace.
It's interesting to see that they didn't push into Devastated Coast.
This one. Villains who start out in Pylon have negative rotate to the starting point of 40% worse to look, to pay, to try, to punish here. for OKS. They themselves in their own difficulties, though, stuck out behind some spiders and some damage that bees, as spiders apparently have bullets as well. It will be native on their second wipe.
The fact they've managed to pick up 2 full team kills at this point of the game is pretty insane. It's so good for them to have been able to do that. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. In fact, I suspect that it won't be, but to continue that momentum is already fantastic for them. 202's fight towards the north is a little bit hairier. They do have control over high ground for right now. It is up against Death Wish. They're playing with some knockdown shields, have serious damage being thrown out by Genos.
Genos, though, will face difficulties in return here, as it's still left up to Danny to finish this off in the 1v1. A shield swap.
Death Wish out.
Death Wish's fate. They walk away with just 4 points. That'll tie them out.
Damn.
No, keeps them at 17th here. When we talk about the overall point tie now, if LVH win this game and they walk away with the series win as a whole, it should be 40% worse now that beat this one out and get into Pro League. But it's going to come down to some very specific math, and I'll tell you what, the teams don't care about math.
Wait, does 40% worse actually have a chance of qualifying without winning?
This is
insane.
Where we leave it all. Your last chance on the preseason
I thought they had to win.
Stage is going to be one fraught with gore. The boys started today with that philosophy, and it looks like they're ending it with that philosophy as they move on up, playing around the hot dog buildings that you called out earlier, with Clemmy going low and going down. Leaves Babylon's right behind, who was frying
Good
earlier
swing.
this time, connecting on the hip fire for not nearly as much as Spaco going low as well. Babylon's left alone. The boys likely going out. Another knock going to come in from behind. Babylon can find a shield swap if he gets if he gets the right thirst.
8 batteries in hand, more than enough to survive, as we'll say goodbye to handsome men in the meanwhile in this 1v1.
Get up to
a
2?
door ahead here. One not claimed by them. Instead, a recovery that needs to happen at a heady with the wingman. Down to top 9, and LVH, after hearing the shots, are gonna get involved. This is absurd.
It is, but I wouldn't have it any other way, Zephyr. This is the way that our finals have always been, when everything is on the line like this and when kills matter more than almost anything. LVH, who can change everything just by picking up a win today, are several points behind making that happen.
Means they gotta get on the hurry here.
Made one up with Liffin's most recent knock, and now a squad wipe almost surely to come in.
All right, the boys out.
Boys go down.
Boys were already qualified though. They're the one team that's like guaranteed.
LVH pick up the 3 KP that B to close the very minor distance ahead here. Something
are we
notable,
missing
though,
teams
is the
here?
fact that in all of this chaos, Final Finers were almost entirely eliminated here. It looks like they might be able to pull for a minor recovery outside of the pylon, but we're not showing on the map. They've got to be careful. There is a team just south of them. Now for LVH to defend against Goner, Savitar.
If LVH goes out here, this might be it. 40% worse might be good.
Coming, Zephyr. Everybody is showing
well, I guess Final Finders is
concealed. Buildings. Fluffle with a gold car do feel pretty comfortable.
We don't know if they've got banners or not.
These buildings, especially without a previous shield break or some sort of crack to open you up and close this distance, is pretty difficult. Relatively isolated fight for now, but 202 are starting to make their way in. This is going to be a 3-way battle.
A massive leap from Falafel will come out with punishment. Nye looking for response. We'll find Liffin down, and while looking for the full wipe, gets punished as a result. 202, though, hearing these shots, being just as aggressive on a round 2 close. Are here
7
to
squads
potentially
left.
finish
That's crazy.
the job and send us to our top 6 remaining.
Oh my, I cannot believe he didn't get that knock, actually. Through the Catalyst reinforced, or rather reconstructed door, Rakafaka does push Vase back for punishing the res, then jumps onto the roof, goes down to Jay Hanzo. We're back to a 2v2.
Hanzo now sitting on 1. Vapes with the R99 in hand. Pulls it off. A bit of defense going to give Jay Hanzo the opportunity to reset. If you are an LVH, They're probably all you secured with points, but you're looking for wins.
Could do it still. This is an extremely slow fight, and Rakafaka is just now getting back into it. Doesn't look like they have the meds to really play as safe as they'd like, but if we're gonna pop a med kit and go forward knowing that Radiant Transfer has their back, LVH forced to disengage, eat shots in the back. Misscam not gonna give this up.
Ooh.
Turn on the head peek takes Misscam out.
Ozzy Owl positioning out far from a distance here. Supported by the Radiant.
I guess 202 could still move themselves up the leaderboard quite a bit, make sure that they're good.
Brings up that dark veil. They're
already in 7th.
Take the time to get Misscam back in it. And this is the perfect opportunity for LVH to push. Giving all that pressure away just means you're guaranteed to have an advantage here. Big damage down, drop Misscam. It's now a 2v2 with a minor revive unsustained.
Damn.
Radiant Transfer full. Peek on the other side, a return on to LVH.
202's out.
It sends 202 home.
Bro, LVH is fragging.
So long, and LVH do manage to pull it off in the end. 202 with their perma resetting.
Remember, they're 8 behind 40% worse going into this game. 40% worse still being in this trial, I do believe.
The two squads that were left there. Everyone else is fighting, whether in
yeah, they're right here
or in Cito, currently fighting for their very lives. 40% worse.
This is their first fight.
Run up on finals finders, the squad in second. But Zephyr, when I tell you no one is in zone, no one is in the next ring, I am not joking. Nobody is there. Everyone is fighting around the edge of the ring. Cito Station is
Forbidden's
a mess.
gone.
Forbidden are out. 5 squads are left, and round 2 hasn't even finished.
MPC come out on top of
What is going on here?
7th, who need all the more and the world here. Instead, this is something you'll love to see.
All right, come on, 40% worse.
Oh,
Warlord, baby!
40% worse are taking matters into their own hands. This is the remnants of final finders, mind you, who are down to a single member here on the northern side of zone. 3 dragons, they themselves as well. I can't believe I'm saying this. This is absurd.
It is. In every sense of the word, Zephyr, this is just...
If LVH goes out,
unhinged, if I'm honest, but I can't
then
say
40% worse is fine.
Much else with so much on the line, and especially with teams who have qualified to today with such incredible fragging potential, it's no surprise that 40% worse are looking for another fight against one of the last 4 remaining squads.
Dia, if Robin and them get eliminated here in this exchange with 40% worth, if MBC go down, it is guaranteed that 40% get into Pro League.
Come on, baby!
They wipe this roster. They don't
Come on!
This game because the only other 3-person team in the lobby is LVH.
There just won't be enough points.
There's not enough points. At 40% worse, they have to win this. They have to win this.
Catalyst wall out to the side. Shiv, very separated from the rest of the squad. Like
don't let this be how it ends.
This is zone 3. There's not a whole lot of time to survive.
NPC,
turn around. Wingman in their hands as well. Takes down Zerafer. 40% worse are not looking like they're going to win this fight. It would take a miraculous 1v3, and from zone, it's not going to happen. That one win that they needed to clinch qualification into the Pro League didn't happen, and now it's up to the scores. It's up to whatever happens behind the scenes. NPC have the driver's stick, driver's whatnot, in the southeastern side of the ring. LVH, still alive and on height, can win this.
If you are a 40% worse fan, you are suddenly the biggest LVH fan in the world here. It's potentially guaranteed they walk away with the win, but if they don't have enough points to not only eclipse 40% worse, but more importantly, not enough to eclipse the final rat of finals finders, 40% worse will not go to.
Oh, there's a
It's
rat
never
from
the
finals
place you
finders
want to be. It's never the opportunity
Oh,
you want
bro.
to be seen lost at the hands that aren't even yours, but it's all that exists.
And with the points getting incrementally higher over the next couple of rounds, they are going to be given a run for their money. 40% worse, I mean. The points that they hold,
brother.
while they should look nice, while they should be comforting, are far from a guarantee, and LVH are basically guaranteed this win right now. They do have an incredible amount of high ground. They have so much control. 3 Dragons and Finals Finders are both rats. It's 1 3v3 that LVH have to win, but the way that NPC were playing moments ago could make it a little more complicated.
Bren, still well and within it. That is something that is going to be so impactful here for this end game, starting to make their way into the territory held by LVH. Has to be so respectful. Getting caught out means instant death here, and potentially your shot at Pro League diminished. All Finals Finder want to do, all Bren wants to do is survive.
I think LVH know, or at least suspect, that this is happening. The audio, perhaps enough to find that last member.
Oh.
They do have, I think, Liffen having called this out earlier. With Hanzo looking for an angle, they really can't drop down. LVH don't have a horizon to make this retake of height easier. Might be better to play for the end game.
Come on!
That's Finals. We're down to our top 3 and a single member of 3 Dragons. That likely sets the fate of Final Finders in stone. Not potentially on their way to Pro League, but realistically, if you want to make sure it is set, if you want LVH on their way, they've got to win this.
And they can, with NPC sitting in the building.
If LVH goes out, it's 40% worse.
Smart use of cooldowns. Catwall can cut off their sightlines completely. And NPC have even given up the building right ahead of Jay Hanzo, with plenty more time on the zone close as well. 10 seconds till this starts to move in, and Hanzo's already off of the height, rejoining the team. Kraber not going to connect out of Vaves, but it just takes one hit.
Knocking, come on.
One big thing to note here is that NPC do not have position in zone whatsoever and are going to be forced to make a heavy rotation in the next 40. The same, surprisingly, can be said for Juicy on 3 Dragons here as a solo member coming from that eastern
I think they
side.
said if they win, if LVH wins though.
From the height there, a heady for a massive 280. It's just the fact that it's a Revenant saves the day, but with all 3 members quickly eliminated, LVH is the with the win on the belt.
Do they win the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's one member of 3 Dragons left, and they're just going to go down to the zone, not wanting to fight it out in the end, and fair enough. They clinched their win today, and a 2nd place. This was as a duo that 3 Dragons performed, but with LVH finding a win, there's a crucial element to that. KP was denied 1 point missing from LVH, and while we do know that I think this should have gone in LVH's favor,
what does that mean for
difference? It's good.
Don't
final
forget,
points?
Tia, LVH was the most prosperous roster on top of 6 additional KP. Tack in 3 for their
so
win.
LVH and
Tack
boys
in another for Bren as a solo. That's 10 plus 12, 22 overall. That alone,
I don't think 40% worse make it.
At a 66 point minimum from the math that I was keeping track of. Right?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't
no.
think 40% worse made that based on the very little and admittedly limited math that I was keeping track of.
I gotta pee.
Well,
but
it's something we're going to have to check out here. But the bigger question that we'll be discussing afterwards, more than anything, will be how do these overalls shake out now that LVH, a team who was guaranteed to get in based on their overall standings, right? Walk in given the kind of general position that they were playing from, now is no longer a potential team whatsoever.
Yeah, very, very true. This is This is a very scary place to be, as any team that is hoping that you make it into Pro League today. I can't help but feel, Zephyr, like, let's say that LVH win, right? They win on the day.
Right.
Surely 40% worse would still make it in this
No,
scenario.
I don't think so.
Well,
because of their... Go ahead.
I don't think so.
It comes down to their performance. To be honest, no one's really truly secure. It really does come down to average performances across the board. But something to note is that at minimum, with 20th place giving 900, teams like Stay Healthy and 202 are well above this kind of 4,000 point margin. And when we break it back down to the next closest teams, especially with 3 Dragons now likely,
yeah, I don't think 40% wins.
This morning, no one breaches 4,000 with their current points. Right? So those teams are guaranteed at the bare minimum. When we bring it down to the next closest, we look at 40% and Death Wish. And that
they're going to be at like
ultimately comes
4,600 though.
Performance on the day of. 40%
Right?
worse may not have won.
No, they're going to get like 1,400. Oh, it's going to be so close.
The difference between Pro Leaguer.
Oh, it's so close.
I can't help but be nervous for what we've seen so far
Everyone
today.
wants 40% worse in Pro League, man.
Come on.
Yeah.
Lie, bro.
I mean, they're very close
I'll be biased
to
there.
having done it. Zephyr,
Come
we do
on.
still announce the winner of today and those that get their Pro League qualification spot, regardless of Challenger Circuit points or preseason points.
I'll tell you what, it's still something to be held. It's still an accomplishment that joins you alongside No Days of Passion and players.
LVH,
To the surprise
GG's.
of nobody. It is none other than LVH.
GG's, LVH.
He breathes.
And now it
finally
makes things
knowing
interesting
that LVH
to see
it was
who
really
gets
close. It was
those
very,
last
very
4
close.
spots.
Come
on, Ship.
Like
About
it was close in
40%
the
worse.
last game.
Oh, I
The
can't
last
wait.
couple of points, like you said, moving them up to 66, probably made that a lot healthier of a gap between them and 40%. However, I do want to take a look at our standings, see how big that gap was, because there were a couple of kills picked up by 40% along the way, and
All right, so here's our final scoreboard.
they
Second.
9 points. Nice. This is
Nice. LVH walk away with that win to join No Days, Passion, and players, but this is what really matters here. A huge shout out to NPC with their points, albeit it won't be enough alongside Finals Fires, Forbidden, but 40% worse with 1,440 points now for their overall preseason qualifier.
This puts them at what,
is going to be
3890?
something that puts them very high up in terms of a contest for their success. They walk away with 3,890, I believe, which, depending on how everything else plays out with Death Wish and more, could potentially be
It's going to be
enough
so
here.
close.
One big thing, though, we are basing a lot of this data on is the fact that with Sunzi's ban on 3 Dragons, they are eliminated, losing out on his points.
Now, I just want to clarify, because I personally didn't get contact from EA Respawn on this.
Right.
Is that a confirmed thing, or is this just we're basing everything on this right now?
That is what we are basing this on. Until this is completely confirmed, which it's the powers that be, the Battlefy that be. That is what something. This is the reason why we might be confident, is that with 3 Dragons facing bans earlier, they lost out their position within the PSQs, losing their points. So the same is to be assumed with 3 Dragons. So, with that following suit, it's likely that they are not going to be making impacts on the overall.
Oh, come on.
Ultimately, should be fine.
Yeah, everybody, wait for official EA ruling on this, of course, but that's what it's looking like for right now. 3 Dragons still putting up a pretty remarkable performance.
Do we
as
get
a
to
duo,
see the
getting
points
6th place.
of who else
Pretty
gets
good.
in?
Let's take a look at how LVH compare to our other squads as well, since we've got our player stats to compare across the multiple preseason qualifiers. This is just to break down exactly how each squad ended up doing. And I
Look
think
at
there's
Passion.
something to be made
Holy
here,
shnikes.
Zephyr, especially with what we were talking about earlier, with how everybody would sort of scale into Pro League, a lot was done by Passion on their individual day, much more, dwarfing any other squad.
Yeah, I mean, already right off the bat there, you can see from the numbers that we have a insane 53 KP picked up by this roster and an absolutely insurmountable damage total from the likes of EQ, 0-0, and Denze. And to be honest, does it surprise anybody here? Some of the most aggressive players from a combination of your Vortex, Passion, and Nightmare rosters from previous Pro League iterations. It's easily the most star-studded to come through the PSQs this season, and while that day was close, and we'd love to discuss the data, because I'll tell you what, players do get their shining moments on that day. Kozak with 10,000 damage. It is still something that has yet to be replicated.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree. The last time we saw teams like Passion in Pro League, it was difficult to have the same performances that they had in the preseason quals in Challenger Circuit. Players looking good as of right now, and I'm certainly looking forward to teams like LVH and No Days Off, who, No Days Off, I'm specifically curious to see how they've grown between first preseason qual and ultimately Pro League, that again will be starting at near the end of January. We will be taking a break as the ALGS until the holidays are over and everybody is back for the start of Pro League. But
do we get to find out?
It's a great place to start basing some early assumptions on and start thinking about how these teams that have qualified up may impact some of your favorites. I do want to take a look as well at our overall Challenger Circuit leaderboards that
the preseason points
could be able to give us the next couple of points. We are waiting on Battlefy to actually finish updating that, so it could be a little while here. But it should give us, Zephyr, the confirmation of what teams have made it and what teams have not.
Yeah. Something that I'd like to discuss, though, that, I mean, we kind of don't, there's so much history that exists among a lot of these players. The only handful that don't is Jukes, obviously, from players who, well, yes, did participate in some early competitive embers back in 2020, and furthermore, realistically, this is the first true opportunity for Jukes to be performing within Pro League. Jay Hanzo, making a name for himself off of LVH today, and then the entirety of No Days Off. I don't know if you folks know this, but Tego, Plexus, Sherbert have been main fixtures, at least, you know, competing within that tier 2 scene for a very, very long time. It's just now that they finally got their chance to shine and make their impacts. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Dia, that, I mean, it doesn't leave me worried. But
what do we think, chat?
When we start to discuss things like how we match up against,
they'll show us, right? Clearly,
something like these
surely,
PSQs,
right?
To get a taste of that action, get that practice in, is so important from a roster like that, who, in comparison to our other major winners, doesn't quite have that same background.
You know, it's funny because I'm going to compare this to something super niche, so get ready, Zephyr. But we've talked about the difference between levels of competition in the ALGS before, from just playing on the ranked ladder to then moving into the Challenger Circuit preseason qualifiers, and then moving into Pro League. And it's a lot like learning how to swim, then being on a swim team, and then being asked to play water polo. They all have a lot of things in common. But there's also a lot that you have to learn on the fly. And I am really curious for, as you say, the teams and the players that don't have already predisposed Pro League history behind them, how they'll adapt. Because that's always the question, and it's going to continue being that. It's the challenge that
I don't think they made it.
Talent always
Shiv is posting on Twitter.
Put themselves up against, and that continues to make it really exciting when they meet those bars that get set for them externally.
Well, it's something that they have the chance in time to work with more than anything. We're going to be looking at that, especially as we.
Okay, so it looks like they're in. Looks like they're in. Looks like they're in. Holy shit! So this is, if I'm not mistaken,
when we get into the kind of
with the
at least
ban, 3 Dragons is going to lose their points.
There's going to be a lot of practice,
which means it's going to be top 4.
It's not just going to be thrown
without them, and 40% worse is in that. I'm pretty sure the boys fucking made it.
That is true, and especially the early couple of days of Pro League, is going to have a lot of people adjusting, which is your benefit. You also get a lot of new rosters that are competing with some of them for the first time together. That gives you time to catch up. I also want to say, from now until then, this is starting, as we said, in late January. You do have time in order to...
Bro, everything is starting late January. I'm so screwed at the end of the month.
Scrims that'll be happening until then. And now that you have your spot secured, most of the time you'll actually get into those and be able to figure out, perhaps preemptively, what's been going on behind the scenes with your team and how you can continue to improve that before the Pro League.
Right. Now, I will say, outside of this kind of information, we can discuss some of the other factors that we know are confirmed more than anything. The likes of the boys, right, especially, they're also part of this list. We came into today knowing that they were guaranteed no matter what to be going to Pro League based off of their raw points, and placing up in the higher ends means they themselves will also be on their way. But, whoa, I believe...
Take a look at it.
Okay, I think we're seeing OBS things.
All right, no worries. All right, well, I'll say...
We're ready.
We're with that, whoa. You probably can assume what I just noticed. We're going to take ourselves over to the other 4 rosters, the other 4 who have achieved their overall point standings to move on to Pro League.
All right, time to find out, at long last, what BattleFi has confirmed. Our winners, of course, No Days Off Passion players in LVH, but via points, Zephyr, who's made it?
Via points, the boys, of course, lead, like we said, with 4,890. 202, 3 Dragons Stay Healthy follow behind. As of this moment, without any further confirmation from Respawn and EA,
this is interesting.
3 Dragons are officially in the Pro League after what was their points. I will confirm for those that are curious, though, that the other following points are 40% worse at 3,890.
So if 3 Dragons gets banned, 40% worse is in.
30 here. So, at least for this
it's
moment,
strange that we don't have an answer on that on a Monday.
Yeah, you can
if I'm being
keep
real.
your eyes on how this all plays out by following us at GG_versus. Versus will be producing not just the preseason qualifiers for EMEA, but also those for North America that'll be happening in just about 5 hours, Zephyr. So we'll see you guys back here for North America if you're not asleep by then. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for the preseason qualifiers once more. This was the last one before Pro League. We've got a lot to look forward to during Pro League, as well as we'll be running the Challenger Circuit.
It's like, I feel like we should be congratulating the 4 teams, right? But we don't have an answer on that.
It's been one heck of a
I don't
journey
get
today,
it.
as tight as it became for so many of our rosters out here. And with only a month to spare, there's, like you said, only so much time for them.
I don't understand that.
That might one day see them at land.
All right, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you back here with more preseason qualifier action and eventually the Challenger Circuit right back on Versus.
All right, chat. Well, what the fuck? Right, I forgot. Ah, I don't have my video ninja set up on that screen. All right. So I'm up out of here. We might be back live over on Twitch here in a little bit for some Rocket League action with Vader. But I'm at least get off for now. I gotta go do some house chores, and then until Vader gets on, I'm gonna try and see if I can get some of the work for the APAC South video done. We'll be back live tonight. Starts at 9. We'll probably pop live a little before that, more than likely. But yeah, man, appreciate everyone coming in. Again, if you're on YouTube and you haven't already done so, do me a favor, hit the like button on the video. Check and make sure down below that you are subscribed. All right, so I'm gonna go and get up on out of here. Until then, I'll see y'all back then. If y'all ain't in there, check me. Jump in the Discord. Also, you can follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram. I'm out until we catch y'all back over here for the next one, man. Do not forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere. Game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. It's your boy Q. Signing out.